So, hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of What If Naruto Loses His Hormone for Anko during the Wave arc. If you're new here, be sure to check out part 1, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for all the love and support you've shown. I'll keep working hard to bring you great stories. On 100 likes, the next part will be uploaded. And don't forget to check out the description box. Please do support the original author. Now, let's start the story where we left off. Hiruzen acknowledged their entrance with a nod. So, did those old farts approve us for C ranks? Asked Anko. Hiruzen smiled. Come by in the next few days, and I'll have a mission ready for Team 7. Chapter 4. Mercy. The genin of Team 7, filled with anticipation, waited near the main gate of Konoha. They had attended training the previous day, their minds buzzing with questions about their first C rank. Anko had given them no details, only instructing them to gather the standard week's worth of mission supplies and meet at the gate the next day. What do you guys think we will do on this mission? Naruto asked, his mind racing with curiosity, trying to fill the void while they waited for their teachers to arrive. I have no idea, Sasuke said, leaning against a nearby building. We're probably going to save a few kingdoms or something and a princess along the way. Sakura rolled her eyes. Naruto, the mission is a C rank, we probably are just doing security or clearing out a bandit camp. Come on, Sakura, get more imaginative. That's way too boring. Naruto, I'm not talking about a random scenario, I'm just telling you what the mission will probably be like. Yeah, but I'm like trying to ask what you hope happens on our first mission. Sakura thought for a moment. I hope it goes like an ordinary C rank, we are strong, but this will be the first time we leave the village and I don't want any of us to get hurt. Naruto, still unhappy with her answer, turned to Sasuke. What do you hope happens, Sasuke? I hope we come across foes that can truly test how far our abilities have come. No form of sparring will match actual life and death situations. So you hope we fight someone super strong, Naruto said, simplifying Sasuke's statement. If anyone is going to fight someone super strong, it will be one of us. The genin turned around to see Anko and Kakashi walking toward them. Sakura gave Anko a disappointed look. I expect Kakashi-sensei to be late, but not you, I hope you aren't picking up his bad habits. Geez, mom, calm down. We just had to discuss last minute details with the Hokage. So, what is our mission? Asked Sasuke. We will tell you more about it when we are on our way. The place we need to go is not far from here, and if we leave now, we'll get there by midday. Keep a moderate pace, ensure you don't want to strain yourselves, said Kakashi. Team 7 exited the gates of Konoha and began to jump through the trees toward their destination. After a few minutes, Anko explained the mission's details. Our mission is to investigate the disappearance of a caravan near the border of the land of Tea. Who paid for the mission? Asked Sakura. Anko proudly looked at Sakura. That is the number one question you need to ask when you are on missions. Depending on who's paying, it can provide insight into how they want the mission done and what you can get away with. Get away with what? Sakura asked as she raised an eyebrow. Anko waved her hand, dismissing her question. Don't worry about that, you'll know when you get older. Anyway, this is one of the many we get from the Mercantile Guild. They often hire leaf shinobi for anything dealing with their caravans. We are heading to the trading post where they were last spotted. What's the Mercantile Guild? Asked Sasuke. It's an organization that many merchants in the elemental nations are a part of. Anyone in the guild is protected by its resources, like when they hire a team of ninjas to investigate your disappearance. Informed Kakashi. Sasuke began going over the possibilities of what happened to the caravan in his head. So, are we going to fight bandits? Kakashi nodded. Most likely, but you shouldn't go in with expectations on what we will find. There could be many reasons why a trading caravan could just disappear, from a Rouge ninja to them just breaking down and taking a break on the side of the road. But I thought that when we go out on missions, we are expected to fight, asked Naruto. Most of the time, you are, but one of the reasons the Leaf is so successful is because we promote our shinobi to be more than just trained killers, we're investigators, protection, diplomats, hell, even entertainment if the pay is high enough, said Anko. So, you're saying the Leaf takes every type of mission? Do other villages not do the same? Sakura asked, not knowing much about how other villages operate. Cloud has a similar philosophy with their ninja, but almost every other village specializes in a specific type of mission that makes up the bulk of their income, Anko answered. We are about to come out on the trading post, let's drop down the road, ordered Kakashi. Team 7 arrived at a small trading outpost near a river. It consisted of small buildings and a bridge to the other side. They touched down on the ground before they got to the trading post and began walking on the road. Why don't we just jump the rest of the way there? Asked Naruto. Another important lesson you should learn as a ninja is to be aware of what you are doing, where you are, and who you are talking to, said Anko. But I already know who I am, and unless I can't see them, I'll know who I'm talking to. Naruto, she is talking about in terms of power dynamics, said Sakura. Exactly. In larger cities, most civilians are used to ninjas. They come in and out of town to meet with clients, and many ninjas spend their off time there. But at a small trading post like this on the outskirts, it's fair to guess that many people here have never seen a ninja before. Anko explained. Well, doesn't that mean they'll just think I'm an awesome ninja? Naruto said assuredly. No, it means that they will probably be scared of you, said Kakashi. A shocked look came across Naruto's face. What do you mean? Kakashi clarified. Most people who aren't around ninjas regularly view us as monsters, killers who can destroy hundreds of lives in a single night. But we don't do that, said Naruto. Yeah, we don't do that, but throughout history, regular villages have been collateral in fights between ninjas. During the last war, thousands of people had to leave their homes to avoid the fighting. You'll likely meet someone who's been negatively affected by ninja, so don't expect the red carpet when you're out of the village. Naruto began to sink into a familiar feeling of dejection. One of the main reasons he was excited to leave Konoha was that people wouldn't look at him with fear or scorn just because of who he was. Anko noticed Naruto's mood flatten and said. It's only a possibility, Naruto. We just want you to be mindful of what you say and how you present yourself. Plus, I doubt anyone would be afraid of a tiny kid like you. I'm not tiny, I just haven't hit my growth spurt yet. Yeah, that's what the short ones always say. Kakashi looked at Anko. You aren't exactly a giant yourself. Anko rolled her eyes. Haha. Let's just go. There must be a main office or a place to find the head of the trading post. As Team 7 stepped into the trading post's main office, they found themselves in a cramped space, barely large enough to accommodate a single room. Inside, they spotted a solitary figure, an older man, seated behind a sprawling desk. The shelves behind him were a chaotic jumble of goods, hinting at a life of trade and commerce. The team walked forward, and the man behind the counter looked up and greeted them. I assume you are the ninjas the Mercantile Guild told me about. The man's gaze lingered a few seconds longer when it passed over Anko, a subtle hint of something more than a casual glance. Yeah, my name is Kakashi Haddock. This is my partner Anko Mitarashi, and this is our Jonin team. The man nodded, clearly not paying attention, as he kept glancing at Anko. Without warning, Anko's hand came crashing down on the desk, startling the man and sending a shiver of unease through the room. Do you mind if we can ask you a few questions about the missing caravan? Anko said while putting on a smile. This action unnerved the man, who began reporting on the missing caravan. Yeah, they came through around 3 weeks ago. They were heading to Degarashi port, but I assume they didn't make it since you are here now. Does this road lead to Degarashi? The road across the bridge branches out into multiple paths. The one leading to Degarashi has been known to cause trouble for anyone passing through. What kind of trouble? Asked Naruto. It depends on what year you want to talk about. 15 years ago, when I first started here, there was an issue of wolf attacks being common. Then, of course, we had a few bandits groups camp on that route, but they usually only stayed for a few months before moving on. Has there been an investigation into why the road is so dangerous? Asked Sakura. I am not saying it's hell on earth, it is not even that popular of a route, most traders go to Degarashi by boat. The road has just attracted a lot of trouble over the years. Is there anyone here who has traveled through that way before? Asked Kakashi. Maybe. A lot of traders come through here. I usually only see the caravan leaders. They check in for a camping spot or beds in our lounges. Well, that's enough for us to go off on for now, thank you. That's no problem. I'll be here for the rest of the day if you have any questions. My name is Yumari Haruki. Where can we find you if we aren't here? Asked Anko. He pointed to the north of the trading post. I live in a small cabin. It's a few minutes away, but I'll probably be here most of the night. I have a lot of work to finish up. Well, Yumari, we'll report to you if we find anything, said Kakashi. Yumari nodded. He waved goodbye to Team 7, and they left the office. Well, he wasn't much help at all. We barely learned anything about the caravan, said Sakura. Not exactly, but we did learn that he was lying. There's probably something more going on here than meets the eye, said Anko. Why do you know that? The guy sounded like he was telling the truth to me, asked Naruto. You heard him say that caravans barely come through that way, but he also talked about multiple bandits groups that had been driven out over the years. Why would bandits operate on an isolated road, rarely traveled near the border of Tea country? Maybe they are just idiots, said Naruto. I think there may be something on that road that draws them to it, or they may have another entirely different reason, and I have a hunch that this place is involved somehow. How can you be so sure? Asked Sakura. It's just a gut feeling that I have from experience. Anko then looked at Kakashi. Right, Kakashi, something is not right with the place. Or am I crazy? Kakashi thought for a moment. Yeah, something bothers me. You would think an entire caravan of people going missing would be more significant news, especially in a small place like this. But we didn't see a single sign or warning about keeping a lookout for bandits. He also wasn't too worried about the condition of the traders. Anko nodded, agreeing with Kakashi's assessment, and turned toward the Jonin. With a firm resolve, Anko assigned the Jonin a crucial task, knowing their findings could hold the key to unraveling the mystery. We need documents from this place, she instructed. Look for written records, letters, logs, yearly reports, financial statements, or anything else that may give us more information about its operations. What are you guys going to do? Asked Naruto. We'll talk to a few more traders and see if anyone was there when the caravan passed through. Wait, that sounds like we'll be doing most of the work. Yeah, but Kakashi and I have done a variant of this plenty of times. Info gathering is one of the best skills you can have as a ninja. I want to see how you do before we head out. And investigate the road. But we never taught us how to do something like this before, voiced Sakura. Infiltration is not something you can train outside of a live situation. I won't tell you what to do, that is for you three to plan and figure out for yourselves. But for any advice, less is more. Highly detailed plans can break down in an instant. Keeping the core strategy simple allows flexibility. Their teachers said their goodbyes and left the Jonin on their own devices. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura sat near the river, a peaceful spot on the outskirts of the trading post. Anyone looking at them would assume they were just kids enjoying a nice summer day. But in actuality, they were planning how to find out information about their mission. So where do they even keep documents and stuff like that? Asked Naruto. Depends, the main building we came in earlier didn't have any other room, and there's not any building around here that looks like an office. It doesn't make sense. If we find this stuff and it gets him in trouble, why keep it? If I were him, I would just destroy it. Naruto said, wondering why someone would keep something that could get them in trouble. The trading post is under some jurisdiction, maybe the merchant guild, since Uemari mentioned them, they probably have to show records as proof that they're not scamming the guild. But where would they keep it? He would keep it close, Sasuke spoke. Both his teammates looked at him. I have a bunch of legal documents concerning the Uchiha. They cover stuff like property holdings and claims to our ancestral land. I keep them closed since they could claim my clan's property if someone gets those documents. Sakura and Naruto were slightly surprised. This was the first time Sasuke had mentioned anything concerning his clan. Hell yeah, infiltration time, said Naruto. The Jonin made their way through the trees until they arrived at a small cabin a few minutes away. Naruto walked up to the door of the cabin and tried the door. It's locked. I figured it would. We need to find a way in, said Sakura. Naruto looked at his teammates. Do you guys have the lock thingies? You mean lockpicking tools? Shouldn't you have some in your pack? Yeah, but I didn't think I would need them, so I left them at home. Sakura shook her head, reached into her tool pouch, and tossed a set of lockpicking tools at Naruto. Bring your own next time. Got it, thanks Sakura. Naruto began to work on the lock. Since when did you learn how to pick locks? Asked Sasuke. Oh, I used to break into Iruka's desk all the time to prank him during class. Each time I broke a lock, he would have a different one put on, so I got pretty good at getting through them. Sakura wondered if Iruka had brought the locks to keep Naruto out or had taught him an essential skill in infiltration. Bingo, they don't call me Naruto Uzumaki, the great lock breaker, for nothing. No one calls you that, idiot. Sasuke said as he moved past Naruto to step inside. His teammates followed behind him. Try not to disturb anything, Sakura said. After about a minute of looking around, Naruto spoke up. Where would he keep it? There's, like, a million places where it could be. This may sound stupid, but hidden safes are extremely common. My family had a ton of them. Wait, this might work. Sakura began to use the Earth Senyor Jutsu to expand her chakra through the cabin. Hell, probably keep near to where he sleeps. Sakura opened her eyes. The wall behind that painting is hollow, Sakura said, while pointing to a landscape painting. Sasuke walked over and removed the painting, revealing a safe. Damn it, how are we supposed to open that, said Naruto. Sakura began to think of a plan. Sasuke then took out a kunai and breathed a small amount of fire on the blade. Once the blade heated up, he began cutting the safe's hinges. Hey, what are you doing? He's going to know that we were here. Anko didn't say anything about not leaving behind evidence. If we take too long to open the safe, we'll get caught anyway. Sasuke then moved the safe door and revealed the contents. Inside were bundles of ryo, some valuable jewelry, and a tied-together pile of documents. Sasuke grabbed the documents and placed the sage door back into the wall. Got it, at least this way, he won't know we were here until he checks the safe. The Jonin exited the cabin and went to find their teachers. They found Anko and Kakashi conversing with some traders. Once the Jonin got within sight, they left themselves out of the conversation and walked over to them. So, what did you guys find? We have a lot of documents, we haven't looked at them since they were left in a safe. How did you get into the safe? Sasuke melted off the hinges with a heated kunai, informed Sakura. Anko nodded. That's probably for the best. You weren't mad? Asked Naruto. No, the only thing you could have done was ask us. But we made it clear that you had to do it alone, so Sasuke did the next best thing, since you lack the skills to open the safe. He opened the safe as quickly as possible without leaving much evidence. If the documents turn up nothing, we can reimburse him for the safe. Okay, let's go over everything. I saw a spot in the woods that should give us some privacy. Anko and Kakashi had been going over the documents for the last several minutes. Becoming impatient, Naruto blurted out. So what do they say? Anko looked up. Most of them are just regular financial statements and inventory reports, but I found two things. Anko then pulled two papers from her pile. This one tracks incoming and outgoing caravans and their routes. Most of it is normal, but almost every caravan going to Degrashi Port is highlighted, including the one we are looking for. I also found an itemized list for every caravan that passed through, and each highlighted one shared the same abbreviation item POH, each one has a sizable amount in the caravan. I think I may know what that is, said Kakashi while ruffling through his piles of letters. Most of these letters are just missives from and to the Mercantile Guild, but there are a few coded ones. Kakashi held up a letter. This is disguised as a standard letter from the guild. But, in actuality, it's a letter discussing incoming Sejensei shipments and what caravans they will be on. Sejensei? Sakura questioned. Outer of Heaven is an acronym for a drug that is used in the Howling Wolf Village to include genjutsu. It gained popularity outside of shinobi circles a few years back, and it is illegal just about everywhere since if it is improperly prepared, at a high death rate. Anko then looked over to Kakashi. Does the letter have the names of the caravans? No, but it has dates, which I assume is the projected arrival time. Kakashi then began to write out the coded dates and handed them to Anko. They matched up near the dates of arrival of the last few caravans. Anko looked at the list of caravans. That can't be possible, there are 15 caravans highlights for this year alone. Did every one of these go missing? No, unless whoever ships these drugs works with the trading post to avoid reporting these disappearances to the merchant guild. Kakashi finished. So, it looks like this road is being used as a way to funnel drugs illegally. Why didn't they just use ships? Asked Sakura. They probably do, but the amount they can safely get through checks at ports is pitiful compared to what they can ship on land. They probably attach their goods to well-established caravans to avoid cargo checks. Then they get their goods and attack them when they are isolated on the way to Degarasi. But why would they attack caravans that carrying their goods? Asked Sasuke. It's likely that the people in the caravans don't know what they are carrying. But why would they involve regular traders? Sadly, when it comes to the illegal sale of goods, most organizations don't stop at drugs. It's likely that they attach themselves to regular caravans and then capture people to sell to the traffickers. But that's not possible. People can't just go missing with no one noticing, said Naruto. Anko sighed and shook her head. Sadly, most travelers bring their entire families, and those who don't probably live far enough away that their loved ones don't know what happens to them. How could this happen? Sakura said dejectedly. Consider the sheer magnitude of the merchant guild, with thousands of merchants under its umbrella. It's conceivable that they lose track of the smaller traders who vanish, especially when many merchants abruptly become inactive year in and out. Anko said, thinking out loud about the situation. The Jonin sat there taking in the seriousness of the situation. Naruto looked up determined, then what are we waiting for? Let's go save those people and kick some bandit ass. Agreed. Team 7 returned to the treetops and proceeded down the infamous road. Wait up. I see something. Anko said as she pointed to an area below. They touched down and began to survey the area. I don't see anything amiss, said Sasuke. Look, Anko pointed to a trail of disturbed plant life leading away from the road. If they are taking hostages from caravans, then they must have a base close by where they take them. Don't caravans have a bunch of stuff like wagons and animals? Asked Naruto. Yeah, but it's been 3 weeks. The only thing they couldn't cover up was the trail they had to take back to their base. Let's follow the path through the trees, stay behind us and point out anything you see, said Anko. They went east for half an hour following the trail of crushed flowers and broken branches and until they came upon an encampment. Anko and Kakashi stopped and looked back. Anko pointed at something and Kakashi nodded. With a swift motion, Kakashi's hands began to move and his fingers danced in the air as he performed a series of hand signals. During one of their team training sessions, they dedicated time to mastering a few essential leaf hand signals. This moment would testify to their training and test their memory. Need water strategy, Kakashi signed to the genin. Kakashi tried to keep the signs as basic as possible, since he didn't know if they read up more outside of the few lessons they gave them. They all got the general idea. They had passed a small pond a few minutes earlier, and he wanted them to head back toward it. When they all gathered at the pond, Kakashi spoke. Good job. Well, they probably wouldn't have hurt us if we had talked. It's good practice to use nonverbal communication when you're close to enemy presence. Yes, I understand, sensei, so how do you want us to approach this? Asked Sakura. Wait, we aren't eating lunch? Asked Naruto, confused. What do you mean? Asked Sakura. Didn't Kakashi-sensei sign food stop go? Anko rubbed a head across her face. Naruto, we will work on hand signals when we get back. And why in the hell would someone use the stop and go hand signals right after each other? Naruto shrugged. Well, more importantly, this is a good chance for you guys to learn how to plan. Don't worry, you will not be doing it by yourselves. We first need to find out everything we can about the camp, the number of enemies and hostages, their location, and the layout. Anko then looked at Sakura. Sakura, can you travel underground and see what you can make out? What if there are ninja? Won't they be able to sense me? Asked Sakura. Kakashi smiled at Sakura, you should be more confident. Most ninjas wouldn't be able to sense you in the ground, and I did a quick check when I got close. None of their chakra levels indicated any of them were ninjas. Okay, I'll try to get as much info as possible, said Sakura. Okay, well you're doing that, I'll get an above ground look at what we are dealing with. Kakashi then hopped into the trees back toward the encampment. Sakura then performed the hiding like a mole technique and went into the earth. After about a minute, she re-emerged no worse for wear. Sakura, what did you sense? Asked Anko. I sense someone around 40 people, 25 are constantly moving, and the other 15 or so are all bunched together. Those are probably captives, then. How were the bandits dispersed? Most of them are in the camp, but it looked like they had 2 3-man patrols. On both sides of the encampment. Just then, Kakashi came back and landed nearby. I got a good visual of the camp. It's built around a cliff, which serves as the camp's back wall. Considering the quality of the construction and the number of buildings, the structure doesn't seem like it was quickly put up. They have probably been here for at least several months, but I wouldn't be surprised if the camp was built years ago. So, anything to report on our kidnappers? Asked Anko. They didn't look like your typical bandits. All of their weapons and armor were of decent quality, and I also saw some sort of tattoo that each of them had. Tattoo, does it look like a seal? With rising panic in her voice. No chakra involved, it looked like it was just a symbol for whatever group this is. Anko internally sighed. It looked like he wasn't involved. She then looked at Kakashi and said. With all of that, these guys sound like mercenaries, expensive ones at that, who would have enough money to pay these guys year-round to stay here. Well, after we clear the camp, that is the first thing we're going to find out, said Kakashi. Anko turned to the genin. Okay, here is the plan. Naruto and Sakura, you will take out the patrols outside the encampment. Be careful and keep the noise to a minimum. We don't want to alert anybody in the camp before we're ready. Don't worry, I'll give these assholes a beating, Naruto said, putting his fist in his palm. Kakashi looked over to Sakura. Where did you sense the hostages? It was near the back of the camp, I only sensed 3 guards near there, though. I saw that there was a cave in the cliff that was being guarded. Only 3 guards near the hostages. Okay, that makes this easier. Sasuke, you will be posted up there. Kakashi pointed to a large tree over the camp, it has a view of the building. Your goal will be to secure the hostages and disable the nearby guards. After that, you need to stay guard over the hostages to make sure no one harms them. They're Sakura and Naruto. You guys will rendezvous with Sasuke at the cave. Informed Kakashi. What will we be doing about the rest of them? Asked Sasuke. Kakashi turned to Anko for any recommendations. The best way to contain them would be for you to infiltrate and fight from the middle of the camp. Since they are mercenaries, they will be smart enough to leave when they see an advanced ninja attacking the camp. That will have them flee through the one entrance, and I'll set up traps at the camp entrance and clear up any stragglers. Sound like a plan, said Sasuke. Sakura nervously asked a question. Are we killing them? Her words almost turning into a whisper. Kakashi turned to the genin and sighed. I wished we didn't have to have this discussion. Listen, each of you may likely have to kill for the first time. I will leave it up to every one of you. If you feel you need to take a life to keep yourselves safe, then do not hesitate. Each of the genin looked uncomfortable at the prospect. But each of them reluctantly nodded. Don't worry. After this is done, we'll talk about everything that happens. Anko said, trying to reassure them. Okay, use only the radios to signal that your area is clear or if something urgent happens. Let's move out. Ordered Kakashi. I need to take a piss. Hirashi got up from sitting on a rock and walked away for privacy. Don't know why you needed to tell us unless you need some help, one of the other two joked. Aha, very funny assholes, I'm just telling you, just in case something happens. As if anything happens around here, but we'll be sure to tell you if we see a squirrel while you are rubbing against a tree. Tarashi rolled his eyes and walked away. After a few minutes, Tarashi didn't come back. Shouldn't he be back already? I don't know, maybe he had to do more than take a piss. The mercenary sighed. Come on, he might have got bitten by a snake or something, remember what happened to Katsu last week. I guess you're right. They both got up and headed in the direction Tarashi had gone. What happened? Did you scrape yourself on a tree? One of them yelled after them. They then heard the scraping of dirt. The mercenary in front put his hand up and approached the tree slowly, with his hand on his sword. Looking around the tree, he saw Tarashi in the ground up to his nose, eyes full of fear. Before he could react, he heard the noise of the earth splitting behind. Sakura emerged and kicked the back of the knee of the mercenary in the back. As he lost balance and began to fall, Sakura performed a quick chop to the back of his neck, knocking him out. The other mercenary reacted quickly and began to swing his sword at Sakura. She deftly applied the double vision genjutsu to the bandit. He swung wide, losing his balance and tripod over a tree. He lost grip of his sword and it ended up turning toward him as he fell, impaling himself. Sakura stared in shock at the impaled man. Just then, he saw the man look up toward the camp. He was about to yell for help. In an instant, Sakura lurched forward, stabbing a kunai in the man's neck. As he died, he looked up at Sakura, his eyes a combination of bewilderment and fear. Sakura stared at the man for a few long moments. She then looked down at the kunai, and her hand was covered in the man's blood. She felt her heart quicken as the coppery smell reached her nostrils, and bile began to rise in her throat. Sakura realized the contents of her stomach on the ground before her, tears in her eyes. She wanted to lay on the ground and cry, but her team was relieving her. She reached for her earpiece and said over the comms that the east side was clear. She then took a deep breath and returned to the camp. Naruto watched from above at the three mercenaries below, each spread out throughout the small area of the woods. Naruto considered the best approach and then nodded to himself. He put his hands into the ram hand sign and made 2 clones. Knowing Naruto's thoughts, the clones put themselves in a position for Naruto's plan. He could have it over instantly if his clones had used the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu, but that would kill them. That wasn't the type of ninja he wanted to be. He would prove to everyone that he wasn't. Once his clones got into position, they all jumped down in unison. His clones were able to take down their targets, one with an axe kick and the other with a punch to the back of the head. Naruto, however, was on a higher branch than his clones, meaning his descent to the ground took longer. This gave the mercenary enough time to react and get out of the way at the last second. Said Naruto, cursing his rushed plan. What the fuck, a kid, yelled the merc. Naruto remembered that he had to limit the noise and quickly dashed toward the man. He grasped his palms together. Bale-style palm strike. Before the man could swing his sword, Naruto had placed his palm on his chest. The man flew backward, careening at a tree. He hit it head first with his neck, giving a sickening crack as he made contact and went limp on the ground. Oh no, Naruto said. He rushed over to the man to see if he was still alive. When he checked for a pulse, he was already gone, dying on impact with the tree. Naruto felt tears fill his eyes. He didn't mean to, he just wanted to knock the guy out. Was everyone right about him? Was he just a monster, after all? Just then, he heard Sakura in his ear. East side clear. Naruto came back out of his thoughts, remembering his role. He quickly reached for his eye and said. West side clear. Okay, begin siege, Kakashi said, voice cold and professional. Naruto stared at the man's body for a few long moments, mind racked with guilt. Tears ran down his face, and he turned away and went to meet up with his teammates. Okay, begin siege. Sasuke immediately took action, sprinting down the cliff and jumping in front of the cave's entrance. Once he landed on the ground, the 2 guards immediately turned to him. He threw 2 shurikens, hitting the wall behind the guards. Ah, it looks like we got a baby ninja, I was almost scared. Both of them began to approach. Once they got closer, Sasuke pulled out 2 more with ninja wire attached. He grabbed the ninja wire and tightened it around the bandits, tying them together. Sasuke held the wire in his hands and performed the hand signs for lighting style depth charge. Sasuke then channeled lightning chakra into the wire, disabling the mercenaries. The other one patrolling nearby came from around a corner, hearing the scream. As he witnessed his fallen comrades, a surge of anger propelled him toward Sasuke swiftly. Sasuke hurled his kunai into the bandit's knee, forcing him to lunge forward. In a final blow, Sasuke's knee collided with the front of the bandit's head, rendering him unconscious. Sasuke then surveyed the area, nobody else was in sight. He then heard the ground near him break, and he saw Sakura. She didn't look injured, but it was clear that she wasn't okay. Still, she put on a smile. "Hey, is everything alright?" asked Sakura. Sasuke nodded. "Yeah, everything went according to plan." Just then, Naruto appeared, his usual bright smile replaced by a somber expression. He acknowledged his teammates with a nod, his gaze fixed ahead as if scanning for potential threats, yet his mind seemed elsewhere, lost in contemplation. They maintained a tense silence, following their sensei's orders to guard the cave. The air was thick with the sounds of screams and the explosive release of ninjutsu, echoing from all corners of the camp. A handful of mercenaries darted through the chaos, oblivious to their presence or simply indifferent. After several minutes, a mercenary came from the front of the camp, bloodied, running for his life. "Move, get out of the way," the bandit said while running toward the cave. The genin braced themselves for combat, but just then, a senbon pierced the side of his neck. Anko jumped down from the roof of a nearby building and began to walk toward the genin. Sakura was terrified at the ease, her sensei had just put the man down. "Did you kill him?" "No, he's just in a state of temporary paralysis." Anko looked around the area. "Good job, you three. The area is secure, we have to see the condition of the hostages." "What about Kakashi?" "He's doing final checks to see any stragglers in the area," Anko said as she moved into the cave. They followed Anko into the cave, it looked to be a natural passage that was altered to fit their needs, and after a while, they came to a metal door. Upon hearing the footsteps, several voices from behind the door began to speak. "Hello," a dry voice came from behind the door, "what's happening outside?" "Don't worry, we are leaf ninjas about to open the door, so stay calm," Anko said, announcing her presence. Anko produced a key she procured from one of the bandits and opened the door. Inside, the sight of the hostages, their eyes filled with relief and gratitude, was a testament to the success of their mission. None showed any severe conditions, just slight malnutrition from being inconsistently fed. After a barrage of heartfelt thank yous, praise, and tears, Team 7 had let the hostages stay in the remnants of the camp to get much-needed rest and food before they made the trip back to the trading post. The sight of the rescued hostages, their gratitude palpable, momentarily lifted the heavy burden from Sakura and Naruto's hearts. It was a slight respite, but a significant one, from the weight of their thoughts. When they gathered in a makeshift dining hall to feed everyone, they tracked down the caravan's leader and asked him questions about their situation. His name was Rakindo Serio. "We're fabric traders from the land of wind. Fabrics are how my village makes money, but lately, the country's economy has taken a turn for the worse. So I decided to take our goods to the land of, on our way, we ran into these two traders at a trading post." They paused to take a sip of water. "They told us their wagon broke and could not carry their goods. They asked us to take their goods with us to Dagashi for payment. At first, I refused, but then they said they knew of a fast land route to Dagashi port. It was the first place I wanted to go, but the cost of sea travel was too high and the significant routes took months from where we lived." "Did you look at the cargo?" "No, all I knew was that they were heavily reinforced and had pretty impressive locks. Since they were well dressed, I assumed they were jewelry traders." Anko nodded as she finished taking notes. "Thank you for telling me, we'll make sure that bastard at the trading post gets his." "I'm such an idiot, I put my family at risk all because I was too greedy to see through such an obvious ploy." Anko put a hand on his shoulder. "It's not your fault. You saw a chance to save your village and took it. You just met evil people who wanted to prey on your good intentions. Don't let go of that drive to protect your family and village, just consider who you trust more thoroughly next time." The man looked up at Anko. "Look at me, a grown man being comforted by someone half my age." Anko smiled, "Well, what can I say? Back home, they call me the young and wise Anko Mitarashi." "I thought they called you the lady with the infinite tabs," said Kakashi as he came over. The man laughed, "Well, both are good titles." "It's time," said Kakashi to Anko. Anko nodded. "I'll see you later, Rakindo. Will your people be ready by morning?" "Don't worry. After a night's rest in an actual bed in months, we'll be ready for anything." Kakashi and Anko said their goodbyes and went to find their team. The genin were waiting by a small fire. After dinner, they were told to meet there so they could have a full discussion about what happened. Anko sat across from the genin. "There is no pressure, but I think you'll find that talking about it will lighten the burden you are all currently carrying if you talk about what happened." Sakura looked at Anko hesitant and began speaking. "I killed one of the guards on patrol, I didn't mean to. I used my genjutsu to throw him off balance, but it affected him more than I thought it would and he fell on his sword. I froze for a second, but he was about to yell, and without him, I shoved a kunai in his throat." "How do you feel?" "When it first happened, I felt sick and just overwhelmed and I ended up throwing up, but now, every time I think about it, I don't feel anything, not sad or angry or sick, it just feels like a thing I did. And that scares me. Does that mean I'm like a psychopath or something?" Anko shook her head. The fact that you're even thinking about the need to feel bad shows that you're not. Sakura, it's been a very hectic day, and it hasn't even been a day since you killed for the first time. You're emotionally drained, and it's okay not to feel something at the moment, as long as you don't look back on the kill with bloodlust or glee, then you should be fine. As a shinobi, you can't let everything that comes with a job weigh you down. You need to compartmentalize, find ways to live, and keep a moral framework around your job. Sakura nodded, her mind filled with a mix of relief and confusion. The thought of not feeling anything disturbed her, but after her teacher's words, she felt a little more assured, a glimmer of hope starting to flicker in her heart. Kakashi and Anko's eyes then turned to Naruto. He didn't speak for a few moments before he asked. "Am I a monster?" Kakashi gave him a pensive look. "No, you're not, Naruto. I know killing is supposed to be a part of being a ninja, but I just wanted to change that, to prove that you don't have to kill and be a ninja, and I ended up crushing that dream in my first real mission," Naruto said, his voice filled with regret and disappointment. "No, Naruto, that is a perfectly valid way to be a ninja," said Anko. Naruto looked up, tears still in his eyes, latched onto his teacher's words. Anko turned towards Sasuke. "Sasuke, why do you choose not to kill?" Sasuke looked at Anko, confused. "What do you mean?" "I looked at the 3 bandits you took out. Each one had comparatively minor injuries, and the takedowns were efficient, but you could have just as easily killed them." Sasuke paused. I made a vow to myself that as long as I'm on my task to kill that man, I won't kill anyone. I want him to be the first life I take." "Do you know why you can do that, Sasuke?" asked Anko. Sasuke shook his head. "Because the 3 of you were the strongest today, not just in terms of fighting, but mentally, you stayed focused entirely on the mission." Both Naruto and Sakura looked down and realized that their nervousness before and during the fight affected their performance. Anko closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Talking about her past was still hard for her, but she knew it would help the genin. "When I had my first kill, my sensei wasn't much help. He told me to hold off my emotions and to steel myself towards death. I tried so hard to become numb to death, but I couldn't, and I ended up carrying everyone I killed with me when I was younger. That was until I met a white-haired man. He saw that I was struggling with myself. When I told him about how the lives I took weighed on me, the first question he asked me was, why do I kill? I then told him because I had to." Anko then smiled lightly. "He called me weak, I just about stabbed him in rage right then and there, but then he said words that I carry with me every day of my life. He said that a weak shinobi needs to kill, but a strong shinobi can't choose mercy. As you all grow stronger, you'll continue to fight more dangerous foes and, without a doubt, kill some of them. However, you shouldn't resign to believing that killing is just a part of life as a ninja. You should strive to become strong enough to choose mercy in every fight." The group went quiet for several minutes, just listening to Anko's story. Sakura and Naruto's moods lightened. Naruto smiled at Anko. "I never knew you were so wise, sis." Anko puffed her chest out. "Well, you know they call me the young and wise Anko Matrashi." After some light chuckles and eye rolls, the group fell into comfortable conversation until the genin decided to sleep. As they laid down their heads, they were all determined to get strong enough to have the option to not kill. After Team 7 returned from their mission, Anko and Kakashi told the genin to head home while they made their report to the Hokage. Once they arrived, they gave a written and verbal report of the mission. Hiruzen began to read over the details gained from interrogating the trading post leader and the mercenaries. After the Daimyo took custody of the mercenaries in Yumari, it was revealed that they were hired by the Wagarashi family from Degarashi port to traffic drugs through caravans. The mercenaries were to pose as bandits, take the drugs, and let the caravan through. A third party offered the mercenaries a deal to sell the traders. They approached Yumari and offered him a cut if he didn't report any missing caravans to the guild. The only description they gave of this third party was that it was a man with 6 arms. They were ordered to tie up the traders at a specific point and leave. The next day, the people would be gone, and they would receive payment. Hiruzen looked up at Anko, who was tapping her foot and griping her arm. "Do you think Orochimaru is involved?" Anko nodded. "As far as I know, there are not many 6-armed people around, and he is the only one who can pull off that type of body modification." Kakashi looked over to Anko. "But why would he go through so much effort to get traders? Not to be morbid, but I fought him before, and he could probably take as many people as he needed." Anko shook her head. "He doesn't like to get his hands dirty. When I was under him, I collected all the materials and samples for him. I wouldn't doubt that he is still the same. He probably has this 6-armed guy over all of the acquisitions for his sick fucking experiments." Anko gripped her arm tighter. "To think that bastard has already affected my team. We have to track him down and stop this." Hiruzen held his hand up. "Anko, we both know that will be near impossible. Jiraiya has been searching for over a decade. Orochimaru will only be found when he wants to be. In the meantime, I'll send these reports to Jiraiya to see if he can dig anything up on this six-armed man and this trafficking ring. Hiruzen took a puff of his pipe. Speaking of other matters, your team has the week off, but you have another mission. Already, what is it? Asked Kakashi. After your demonstration, you got Kidaru and Homura on your side, but it also resulted in them giving many recommendations for how I should handle your team. The Flame Festival will start a week from now, and the Daimyo has asked us to send ninjas as representatives. Initially, I was going to send Asuma and his Jonin team. Still, Kidaru insisted that Team 7 should be going as Konoha's future. However, I think that meeting Daimyo at a young age will be good for them. And it goes without saying that you and Anko will accompany them to the capital. Anko sighed. I can't believe we have to go through all of this political mess. This mission is just us being a glorified attraction for people to look at. Hiruzen nodded. I understand how you feel, but the festival will only last 3 days, so you won't be gone long. You only need to talk to a few people and represent the leaf. Anko's frustration was like a storm brewing within her, visible in the way she looked up. Oh, now those old bastard teammates of yours want me to represent the village. I seem to remember that it was them who wanted me to stop being a ninja altogether. Why should I have to go and do their bidding? Hiruzen got a stern look. Anko, I put up with a lot from you. I understand that Orochimaru has you on edge right now. However, I still expect you to respect your superiors and show some maturity. You are being given an opportunity that you have wanted for years. Don't be petty and use this chance to show people that they are wrong about you. Hiruzen's voice was firm, his words carrying the weight of his position. Anko's shoulders slumped, her form shrinking as if under the weight of the scolding. Sorry, it's just you're right. I'll make sure to do my absolute best to represent Konoha. Anko bowed. I'll see you later, Anko said as she quickly left the office. Kakashi stood in uncomfortable silence, feeling like an intruder in a private conversation. The tension in the room was palpable, his discomfort adding to the unease. Hiruzen looked over to Kakashi. Sorry about that. Sometimes, that girl gets in her own way, I couldn't stand for it. I know missions like this aren't your forte, but can you keep an eye out for her? This position in Team 7 is already changing how some on the council view her, and I don't want her to squander it. Kakashi smiled. Don't worry, I got it handled. Thank you, Kakashi. Also, keep an eye out for Naruto. His chances as the future Hokage can be diminished if he upsets the Daimyo. Hiruzen said, humor slipping into his voice. Kakashi nodded, bowed, and took his leave from the office. 2 days later, Team 7 found themselves in the bustling central shopping district of Konoha, a place known for its vibrant atmosphere and diverse array of shops. What's the deal, Kakashi-sensei? I thought we were supposed to be honing our skills today, Naruto questioned, his usual enthusiasm tinged with confusion. You can consider this a type of diplomacy training, appearance is a major asset for shinobi, answered Kakashi. Sakura deadpanned and asked. Don't you always wear a mask, sensei? This is a waste of time, Sasuke muttered, his voice dripping with disdain. Come on, guys, just consider this a team outing. Plus, this is all going on at Kakashi's dime, Anko exclaimed. It is, said Kakashi, his confusion evident in his tone. Come on, let's go. Yelled Anko as she walked toward a clothing store. Kakashi sighed, the Ninken would have to accept the cheaper dog treats this week. Following Anko, they saw a store with a large sign saying Ninja Outfitters. They entered to find a large store that sold various ninja tools, armor, and clothing. Naruto looked around nervously. Do I have to get something? I like my jumpsuit. Anko looked at him, you do, at least for this mission, your uniform has to be different, we can't have that eyesore representing the leaf. Naruto looked down dejected. Damn, thought Anko. Did this kid have such a hold on her that she couldn't even tell him off? She sighed. You can keep the orange, just look for something half decent. Okay, I'm going to see if I can find a new awesome ninja uniform. Naruto started to run off, but Anko caught the back of his jumpsuit before he did. Wait. Before you go outfit hunting, we must teach you a core lesson in maintaining your appearance as a shinobi, said Anko, her voice giving way to anticipation. Anko led them to the back corner of the store, where a young woman was manning a counter, behind her were a multitude of makeup and perfumes. Hello, what can I do for you today? We would like to show our students how to use chakra powder. Ah, I see, the woman then squatted down and began to rummage through a shelf behind the counter. You know, it's worth learning how to unlock your chakra just to use this stuff. Ain't that the truth? I use it all the time, commented Kakashi. Sakura gave him a pointed look and said, mask. The woman brought up a circular tin, placed it on the counter, and removed the lid. Inside was a refined white powder, a unique product in cosmetics. Is that makeup? Asked Naruto. Yeah, this is used as a foundation for shinobi out in the field. Many regular products tend not to last in our line of work. Wait, I can't put on makeup, I'm not a girl, protested Naruto. Anko rolled her eyes. Male shinobi put on makeup all the time, even the Hokage. Wait, really? Sakura said, shocked. You really think that I look this good all the time? I mean, I do, but that's beside the point. Ninjas are supposed to be representative of authority and respect. So how you look when you're around the village and outside can matter even in combat, said Anko. How, questioned Naruto. Confidence and perception can decide the strategy you use in battle. If you're on a mission and are days in without sleep and an enemy catches you with deep bags and stress lines, they are more likely to rush you, but if you look like you're perfectly fine, then they may adjust their strategy. I also heard that many ninjas feel more confident, said the woman behind the counter. Anko turned to Sakura. Go ahead and try it out, it's very easy to use. Sakura nodded and approached the counter. The woman then began an explanation of how to use the powder. Okay, it's straightforward, all you need to do is channel your chakra into the powder, and once you feel you have enough, scoop some into your hand, close your eyes, and then toss it on your face. Really, that's it, said Sakura, surprised at the ease of the instructions. Go ahead, try it. Sakura followed the instructions and threw the powder in her face. She looked into the mirror on the counter and saw the results. She hadn't used makeup much since graduating from the academy, and when she did, it was often ruined by the end of training. She was amazed by the results. Her blemishes and acne were covered, and the powder perfectly blended into her skin. Wow, Sakura said in awe. Pretty cool, right, said the woman. Sakura asked the woman, do you have any other products like this? She shook her head. Sadly, the field of chakra cosmetics is pretty limited, a lot of the stuff is in experimental stages. Oh, that's too bad. Naruto then stepped over to get a better look at Sakura. Wow, you're like 1,000 times prettier than usual, I want to try. Naruto then hastily reached for the tin before Kakashi caught his hand. Naruto, remember that this is not a jutsu, channel as little chakra as possible, or else it can have terrible results. Like what? It can explode on your face and maim you for life, Kakashi said as he smiled. Naruto gulped. Okay, I'll be careful. Naruto then began to channel chakra into the powder and then he threw it on his face. When he opened his eyes and looked in the mirror, he then smiled and began to look at his face from different angles. He then pointed at his reflection and said, who is this handsome devil? You know what? I know why they call me the striking Naruto Uzumaki. Stop being dumb, Naruto, said Sakura. Yeah, and why do you keep giving yourself these titles? Asked Sasuke. I think you have to ask why people keep giving them to me. The woman behind the counter laughed. Oh, you are all such cute kids, you can keep this tin on the house, it was being used for samples anyways. Naruto smiled. Thanks, lady. No problem, Mr. Striking. She then turned to Anko. Would you like to buy anything else? Sure, I'll get 2 more tins. Anko pulled out a Ryo pouch and turned to Kakashi. Go ahead and take the brats through the rest of the store. Kakashi pointed at the powder. You aren't going to make me pay for it. No, wait. You thought I was serious, but you can if you want to pay for it so badly. When Anko looked back, Kakashi was already gone. Sakura looked through the store, the sheer amount of clothing options was overwhelming. Sakura was initially excited by the prospect of getting a new uniform, her kipao dress had torn on the last mission, and while her mom could sew it back together, she had also realized that she had been wearing it for 3 years, she made it her uniform because it was her favorite outfit. Still, she had changed so much since the academy, her mind returned to a memory of Ino telling her that a change in fashion can often represent your changing or growth into a new person. But Sakura quickly realized she had no idea what she wanted to look like, the options were staggering. She couldn't imagine herself wearing most of the stuff here. Everything's alright, Sakura? Anko asked as she approached Sakura. Yes, sensei, Sakura said, not really paying attention to her teacher, absorbed in her current dilemma. She then looked at her Anko, more specifically, her style. It was unique, and parts of her personality could be discerned just by looking at her. Sensei, can I ask you a question? Yeah, go ahead. Why do you wear what you wear? Sakura realized that that question could be misconstrued. No, wait, I mean, like the reason, I'm not trying to judge you. Anko chuckled. Don't worry, kid, I knew what you meant. Anko then looked up at the ceiling, constructing her answer. You ever get inspired by someone and you think to yourself, I want to be like them when I grow up? Sakura thought momentarily and a vision of Ino popped into her head. Yes. Well, growing up, I wanted to be my favorite character. It was a book series called Kunoichi Diaries, one of the few ninja-focused books with a female lead. The main protagonist was a woman named Yuhiko, she was smart, sexy, and one of the most powerful ninjas put to paper. Her signature outfit was a red leather coat with a fishnet underneath. Thought it was so fucking cool growing up, so I said to myself, when I grow up, that's what I want to wear. Sakura looked up at her sensei, surprised that so much thought had gone into her outfit. She then began to feel more insecure. She hoped to get some ideas from her teacher, but wouldn't that just be copying Anko? Are you comfortable with what you wear now? I am, but this is the first time in my life where I feel I'm going somewhere, but I don't know how I should present myself. Anko looked down at Sakura. Don't force yourself to change into something you're not. Anko gestured to the surrounding racks of clothing. I wouldn't wear most of this stuff in my life, just pick something out that you like, you don't have to decide who you want to be now, you're young. Anko then placed a hand on Sakura's head. Sometimes, you think way too much with this big old brain of yours. Thanks, sensei. After about an hour in the store, all of Team 7 met up, Naruto and Sakura, with the clothing they picked out, and notably, Sasuke didn't have anything. Hey, where's your stuff? Asked Naruto. Sasuke shrugged. I didn't see anything in here that I wanted, plus anything I would want to wear, I would want the Uchiha symbol on it. And I already have tons of clothes, so there's no point in buying any more. Yeah, but sensei is paying for it, said Naruto. So that means this stuff is free. You have to get something. It's not free, you little freeloader. Kakashi's wallet is crying right now, said Anko. Kakashi reached into his vest pocket. So you paid for the makeup, so I can pay the more expensive charge. I don't know what you are talking about, Anko said, feigning innocence. Kakashi sighed and began to walk to the register. Behind the counter was an older woman. Hello, did you find everything okay today? Yeah, this store is lovely, said Kakashi in a tone that was close to sarcasm. He gestured for Sakura and Naruto to put their clothes on the counter. When the woman saw Naruto, she glared at him, which made him flinch and back up. Kakashi then spoke up. I would ask you not to glare at my students, he's been with us this entire time, so he hasn't stolen anything unless there is something else about him that made you look at him that way. The woman clammed up. No, nothing at all. She then began quickly to check out the items. Sorry about that, sir. I hope you have a great rest of your day. As they exited the store, Sakura asked a question. Why did Kakashi-sensei threaten that woman? Sasuke perked, interested in the hidden meaning behind Kakashi's words. Naruto was abnormally silent. Well, what Kakashi did there was a sign of loyalty. The woman disrespected Naruto, so Kakashi told her off. Said Anko. But why didn't she like Naruto? Sakura then looked at Naruto. Did you do something to these people to make them mad? Naruto flinched. No, I haven't even been to this store before. I assure you that Naruto has done nothing to hurt these people, sometimes people are just rude. I just did what I expect you to do if one of your teammates is mistreated, stand up for them. The Jonin nodded, agreeing with the sentiment. Though Sasuke and Sakura felt like they weren't being, they told the whole story. Anko spoke, okay, that's it for today. We'll have training off until the mission, but don't get used to long breaks after missions, this is just because the Hokage has allowed this. Team 7 went their separate ways, prepared for their journey to the capital. Shikamaru wasn't having a good day. His mom had woken him early to feed the deer, and now he was leaving the village for a troublesome mission. His dad told him to use this opportunity as a learning experience, since it was essential for him to have a relationship with the Daimyo as a future clan head. Now, he had to travel to the capital and be around an ocean of people, instead of spending his weekend watching clouds and sleeping. He yawned as he approached a familiar bench. Choji was already there snacking on some chips. As he saw his friend approach Choji, he gave Shikamaru a hum of acknowledgement. Ino isn't here yet, asked Shikamaru. Choji swallowed the snack he was eating. No, you remember what she said yesterday. Choji then put on his best Ino impression. If I'm going to the capital, I have to do a deep dive into my wardrobe. Troublesome. Shikamaru sat down next to Choji, leaned his head back, and closed his eyes. His mind drifted, remembering all the times he and Choji had waited at the same spot for Ino. With all of their fathers being teammates and best friends, they had grown up together. They would often meet on the street since it split off in the direction of each of their clan compounds. One of the things he liked about the three of them always being together was that he didn't have to change his routine. If he were put on a team with a bunch of people he didn't know, it would be a lot of effort. Hey, get up, you lazy bum, we're already running late. Shikamaru heard a familiar voice. Shikamaru opened one eye to see Ino dressed in her usual outfit with a satchel around her shoulder. I thought you were going to wear something fancy, asked Choji. I couldn't decide, so I brought the best ones. She opened her satchel, and inside were several summoning scrolls. We're only going to be gone for 3 days. Why do you need that many outfits, asked Shikamaru. You can never be underprepared when it comes to fashion. Shikamaru sighed. Team 10 headed to the meeting spot, a restaurant in the village called the Dango Shop. When they arrived, Shikamaru noticed that Asuma was leaning on a wall outside the shop. Asuma looked up at his approaching team, a lit cigarette in his mouth. "Oh good, you're here, it's bad practice to keep your fellow ninja waiting." "What do you mean?" asked Ino. Just then, Team 7 emerged from the dango shop. And to Team 10's shock, they noticed a drastic change in Team 7's appearance. Their usual ninja attire had been replaced. Naruto wore an open orange jacket with a Uzumaki swirl on the back, a blue shirt, and black-orange striped track pants. Sakura had braided her hair into a ponytail that went down just below her shoulders. She had a red kimono top and kept her black biker shorts. She had wrapped bandages over her arms and legs and had on small emerald earrings with a silver band. Anko was wearing a trench coat similar to her usual, but white with a purple inseam. Underneath, she had a dark red sleeve-collared shirt, a black skirt that went down to her knees, fishnet leggings, and black shinobi sandals. "What are they doing here?" Ino asked as she went back and forth between glaring at Sakura and ogling at Sasuke. "Well, both of our teams were assigned to this mission at the last minute, so I wanted it to be a surprise that you get to work with your former classmates," said Asuma. "Shika, Choji," Naruto yelled as he ran forward, greeting his friends. "Hey, Naruto, want a chip?" Choji offered the bag to Naruto. "Sure. So you finally got rid of that hideous jumpsuit of yours," Shikamaru said as he examined Naruto's new outfit. "Oh, don't worry, I still have them. I like this new style, but you just can't abandon the classics," Naruto quipped. "Them? You have more than one?" asked Shikamaru. "Of course, the guy I bought it from gave them all to me for no extra charge. Can you believe it?" "I can, actually." Asuma spoke up. "You guys can catch up with each other on the road. If we leave now, we can make it to the capital by evening." "The evening? I thought the capital was close by," questioned Sakura. "It is, but we are not tree running. This is a very low-risk mission, so we are walking there," explained Kakashi. "Okay, guys, come on, I have so much to tell you about all the cool ninja stuff I've been doing," Naruto said, gesturing toward his friends. The genin walked beside each other, with Naruto telling Team 10 about their excursions and Sasuke and Sakura stepping in to stop exaggerations. Ino and Sakura stayed as far away as possible, occasionally glaring at each other. Not too far ahead, the Jonin were having a conversation of their own. "So, can I get any details on you and Kurenai? Every time I ask about you and her, she clams up on me," questioned Anko. Asuma coughed on his cigarette. "Well, you know you can't rush these things." Kakashi looked at Asuma. "I know we don't talk much, but I seem to remember when you got back to the village, you said something like, 'I'm going to tell her how I feel.'" Kakashi put a hand to his chin and looked up thoughtfully. "Wasn't that 3 years ago at this point?" Asuma sighed. "Yeah, I did say that it's just complicated." "Complicated? I never figured you for someone who dances around feelings, especially for 3 years," said Anko, frustrated by the lack of initiative taken between her friends. "Look, before I left, she confessed to me, and I rejected her. I changed a lot since then, but I still feel like that asshole I was before. Every time I start to talk to her about it, I just feel guilty." Anko paused for a moment before saying. "Yeah, you were kind of an asshole before you joined the Guardians." Kakashi nodded in agreement. "Real comforting guys." Asuma took a puff of his cigarette and looked up. "I don't know why she liked me back then. I was just an angry inconsiderate ouch with daddy issues, but I guess she saw something in me." "You mind if I give some unasked for advice?" asked Anko. "I would say no, but you'll just say it anyway. You're not the only one who changed, Kurenai has too. She's not the same girl who liked you. Don't let your past hold you back from being happy. Also, confess to her so she'll stop bugging me with letters." "Letters?" Asuma raised his eyebrows. "Yeah, Kurenai is a lot more open when she writes. I come home to letters all the time, filled with just emotional blah," Anko said, exasperated by her best friend's antics. "Letters, huh? That might be a good idea," Asuma mumbled to himself. "What did you say?" "Nothing, let's talk about something else. How's your genin doing?" Anko perked up and she gave Asuma a detailed and slightly exaggerated version of her team's accomplishments. Asuma gave an impressed whistle. "Man, I wish my team had that amount of motivation, it's a struggle to get through team training." "Really, that bad?" Kakashi asked. "Our training time is cut short due to all of them doing clan training throughout the week, so they half-ass it when they do," explained Asuma. "Maybe Anko can give you some advice." "Wait, why me?" Kakashi gestured back at their team. "The kids put in the work, but you created the schedules and exercises and identified their strengths and weaknesses after only a few days with them. You're a good teacher, Anko, and you should take pride in that." Anko blushed slightly under the praise. "Fine, I guess I am an amazing teacher." She turned to Asuma. "Go ahead and tell me a little about them." Asuma started. "Well, the 3 of them have a very interesting dynamic. They are basically siblings in how they act, and the only thing that I can give them credit for is that they have outstanding teamwork. They showed that to me when they passed my test. Toji is a follower through and through. He doesn't like conflict, verbal or physical, and he is perfectly content with eating instead of training. Ino is the emotional leader of the three. Usually, I can only get all three of them to commit to something when she yells at them both to do it. But she hates doing any physical activity, and I think being a ninja is around 8 or 9 on her list of priorities in life. And Shikamaru. Asuma sighed, the kid has to be one of the smartest people I ever met, and he's 12, but it's like he's in a state of constant burnout for most things around him. They have potential, but it's hard to give guidance on techniques you know nothing about. Anko thought over everything Asuma said for a second. Yeah, it sounds like the three of them feel like they are forced to be ninjas, which, if you think about it, is kinda true. Really, how do you figure? There are the kids of the most famous team in Konoha outside the Saen, and all three of them are future clan heads. Not being a ninja was never an option. Asuma nodded, and he resonated with that feeling of being trapped in something just because of what family you were born into. You should probably share your experiences with them, it might help, suggested Anko. Asuma nodded. Thanks Anko. I've never considered that I taught teams before, so I was just approaching this like they were a regular team. I've never been too good at what that saying you always use, looking underneath the leaves. Underneath, Kakashi corrected. Yeah, that. Asuma blew out a smoke ring and looked over at Anko. Anything else, Professor? Anko rolled her eyes at the nickname and began to think of more specific strategies. For Choji, you should make him take more assertive stances. Offering food as a reward for finishing team training or exercising could make him push his teammates. I have no idea what you should do with Ino. Threaten to tell her dad about her lack of effort. If that doesn't work, then my only suggestion is to talk with Inoichi. He spoils her rotten and is probably the only person who can kick her into gear. So, like you're suggesting, I use bribes and blackmail. Anko shrugged. If it works, it works. Wait, do you know Inoichi? Asked Asuma. Anko nodded. He was my therapist when I came back to the village. We've shared a few drinks over the years. Yeah, I don't know how that conversation will go. He might not have a good reaction to me calling out his parenting, said Asuma. Don't worry, he doesn't have thin skin. If you just frame him as if you want to ensure she is prepared for the future, then I'm sure you can get him on board. What do you think about Shikamaru? The only thing I can recommend is that you do your best with the other two. You two know that when you are young and are gifted, it comes with a certain amount of arrogance. He just needs to get knocked on his ass by life, and you just have to make sure your team is no worse for wear when you pick him up. Asuma nodded. In all seriousness, Anko, the only other person I've seen give such good advice on teaching is dad. I guess you picked up a lot from him over the years. Anko smiled. I guess I have. As the capital became visible in the distance, Ino finally confronted Sakura. She eyed the bandages around Sakura's arms and legs, which looked eerily similar to how she had been wearing bandages for years. So I guess you didn't stop copying me when we graduated the academy, you have to do it while we're Jonin too. I'm not copying you, Ino pig, this is for utility. When I go underground, the dirt feels weird on my skin. Underground? Ino shook her head. Forget about that. Tell me how you did it. Did what? How did you convince Sasuke to date you? We're not, though. That can't be true. Sasuke actually talks to you, and when I try, he ignores me and walks away. You must have forced a rule on him that he can't talk with other girls. Sakura felt a little heated at her accusation. She had worked hard to build a friendship with Sasuke, and Ino's behavior reminded her of how she acted just a few months ago. Listen, Ino pig, Sasuke and I are just friends. There is no way that you don't like him anymore. Don't try to kid yourself. Sakura lost a little confidence, realizing that what Ino said was true. I mean, I guess I still like him, but he has made it clear that he has no interest in dating anyone, so what's the point of pursuing someone romantically if you already know the outcome? That's quitter talk, true love doesn't give up. Sakura cringed at the phrase she once used. You know, for someone who is supposed to know a lot about psychology, you sure are bad at considering others' feelings. Ino narrowed her eyes. Are you saying that I am inconsiderate, forehead? Ino was actually hurt by that, she felt that empathy was one of her strongest qualities. Yes, Sakura yelled, exasperated. You know what I'm done, Sakura said as she began to walk away from Ino. Whatever. I didn't want to talk with you anyway, forehead. The Jonin looked back at the display. Oh, that isn't good, I'll say something to Ino later, said Asuma. Anko looked at both girls, recalling some of the arguments she had with Karina in the past. Nah, don't I have a feeling they will work out their issues themselves. As the two teams approached the capital gates, the Jonin were amazed at the number of people going in and out of the city. A figure, impeccably dressed, emerged from the bustling crowd and approached them. Welcome, honorable ninjas. The preparations for the weekend festivities are in full swing. Allow me to guide you to your lodgings. The daimyo, though occupied at the moment, has graciously extended an invitation for you to join him for dinner in a few hours. We'll be honored, Asuma said. Asuma, it's good to see a friendly face again, said the man. It's a joy to see you again, Renota. Asuma's smile was genuine as he extended his hand for a warm handshake. Naruto looked over to Kakashi and asked. How does Asuma-sensei know that guy? Asuma served the daimyo as one of his ninja guards for years, he's quite famous around here. They made their way to the daimyo's place. The genin was shocked at how different the capital was from the village, the buildings were taller and more compact, and the streets were filled with a sea of people. After half an hour, they approached a large gate in front of the daimyo's palace. Renota flagged down a servant and whispered something in his ear, he then turned back to the group. Okay, just follow him to your lodgings. Dinner will be ready soon, so I urge you all to meet us in the dining room as soon as you can. They went to the dining hall after being escorted to their lavish rooms. The size of it was the equivalent of a Konoha street. They entered the dining hall, a room that could rival the size of a Konoha street. A grand table, stretching as far as the eye could see, was adorned with a feast fit for royalty. The aroma of the delicacies wafted through the air, tantalizing their senses. A few seats down from the daimyo, a cornucopia of delicacies awaited them, a testament to the daimyo's hospitality and wealth. The daimyo entered. He was an older man with graying hair, wearing a formal kimono. He saw the group and began to walk toward them with his guards. He then motioned his guards to back up some. Do not smother them, the leaf is our long-term friend. The guards back up, giving them some space. Asuma, spoke the daimyo, he walked forward and gave him a firm handshake. It is so good to see you again, I understand after what happened, you wanted to get away from the capital, but we miss you here. I certainly miss this place sometimes as well. The daimyo then turned toward Team 10, you must be the latest generation of the Nara, Yamanaka, and Akimichi's clans. You know your fathers made a similar trip here to have dinner with me when they were a few years older than you. I'm grateful to have lived long enough to have met their children. All three of them bowed. It's a pleasure to meet you as well, sir, said Ino. The daimyo then addressed Kakashi. I don't believe we have ever had the pleasure to meet Haddock, I knew your father quite well. The most, Kakashi's body language didn't change. Still, Anko and Asuma noticed him get tense at the mention of his father. Well, I'm sorry to say I'm not as strong as my father, but I hope that I have lived up to his name. Daimyo smiled. If the stories I hear about you are true, my boy, then you have done more than just that. He turned to Anko, I'm sorry for my ignorance, but I don't seem to recognize you. Oh, my name is Anko Mitarashi. I'm a special Jonin from Konoha, it's a pleasure to meet you. Kakashi spoke up, she's one of the best teachers we have in Konoha, and she's the only reason our team has made such progress in such a short amount of time. Oh, is she now? I commend you, teaching the next generation is one of the most noble tasks you can pursue. Anko smiled, some of her anxiety leaving her body. I fully agree. The daimyo then moved on to the genin of Team 7. And this must be the famous Team 7. Hiruzen sent me a letter about you attending the festival, and I knew I had to meet you. I must thank you for the job you did in clearing up that business with the merchant guild. It was no issue for us, sir. We were just doing our jobs, Sakura said, almost choking on her. Haverness. You're a really nice old guy. I expected you to be all stuffy and proper. Everyone looked at Naruto. Sakura sat there, eyes wide, mouth agape, wishing she was able to cocoon. The daimyo broke the tension and gave a laugh. Oh, you would be surprised, my friendly demeanor puts many people off. What is your name, young man? Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage of Konoha, exclaimed Naruto. The future Hokage, huh? Well, if you keep that confidence, I have no doubt you'll have that position someday. Naruto smiled immensely, happy that someone so important was acknowledging his dream. After that, the dinner went along as usual until the daimyo at the head of the table spoke up near the end of the dinner. I would like to dedicate a toast to the young ninja from Konoha. I'm certain that each of you, with your unique skills and unwavering dedication, holds immense potential as the future leaders of Konoha. It is an honor to have you here tonight. All of the genin beamed under his words. The dinner ended with most of the occupants in near food comas, and Team 7 and 10 retired to their rooms for the night. The next day, the Jonin were giving a talk to the genin. Okay, some ground rules. You guys can explore the festival, but no drinking or doing anything you shouldn't be doing. You guys may be adults in the eyes of the law, but in our eyes, you're still children, got it? Anko said sternly. They all nodded. What are you guys going to do? Asked Sakura. All the things you guys can't do, that's why we are leaving you by yourselves, answered Kakashi. I feel like there is some hypocrisy hidden somewhere here, commented Ino. Asuma shrugged. Do what I say, not as I do. The genin strolled leisurely through the festival grounds, their eyes drawn to the myriad of stalls selling tantalizing food and exciting games. Naruto and Choji, unable to resist the temptation, paused again at their fifth stall before continuing their journey. Ino, with a playful yet slightly exasperated tone, called out. Come on, guys. Let's not forget the festival itself. If you two gluttons are going to stop at every stall, we will leave you behind. Choji turned around and had a severe look on his face. Then, you may leave us. Choji then gestured around at the food stalls. This is one of the few places in the world where you can embark on a culinary adventure, trying hundreds of foods from across the nations. We are not simply stopping just to fill our stomachs, but to sate the relentless quest to find new flavors. Isn't that right, Naruto? Naruto turned around, mouth still full. Yeah, sure. Wow, I didn't know you were so passionate about food, said Sakura. The Akimichas hold food in high regard, it's not just a necessity for us, it's a passion, but seriously, I don't want to hold you guys up, me and Naruto will be fine by ourselves if you want to go on ahead. Fine, come on guys, let's explore the entire festival, exclaimed Ino, excited. Shikamaru began to formulate a plan to prevent himself from walking across the entire city. He spotted a shogi cafe down the street and he then turned to a likely ally in Sasuke and asked. You want to play shogi? Shika, why would you want to do something you always do? There are literally hundreds of things to do and see, and you want to play shogi. Ino said in disbelief. Yeah, said Shikamaru, bored. Fine, do what you want for all I care. Come on, Sasuke, we can have the festivals ourselves. Sasuke looked at her blankly. He then turned to Shikamaru. Sure, I'll play, I don't have much experience, though. That's not a problem, it's pretty easy to pick up once you go through a few matches. Ino watched, rubbing her eyes, as Shikamaru and Sasuke vanished down the street toward the shogi cafe. Ino and Sakura were left alone, leaving a tense air between them. After a few moments, Ino started to walk forward. When Sakura didn't follow, she turned around. Come on, forehead, we may be rivals, but that doesn't mean I want to go around the festival alone. Sakura smiled lightly. I guess I can go with you, Ino pig. Sakura and Ino began exploring the festival. At first, it was awkward, with both being in such a friendly environment, they couldn't bring themselves to argue. Still, after a few activities and jokes, it was as if a dam broke. They began talking as if they had barely spoken outside of arguments the last few years. They ran through stalls, trying out treats and games. They rested on a bench and watched a theater play about the founding of the Land of Fire. It was terrible, and the girls held back tears as they continued to joke about the play for the rest of the day. Their day ended when the sun began to set and they found themselves at a shrine overlooking a portion of the city. Sakura returned from a nearby stall, a cone of ice cream in her hand, the sweet scent of vanilla and strawberry wafting through the air. Ino, leaning against the railing, turned to her with a smile. Here's your ice cream, Sakura said as she handed it to Ino. Thanks, forehead. They sat there for a few minutes before Sakura said what had been on her mind for the last few hours. Ino, I've been wondering why did we drift apart? Sakura's voice was filled with a mix of curiosity and sadness. Can we not do this now, forehead? I'm actually enjoying being near you. I'm serious, Ino, tears began to form at the corners of Sakura's eyes. Spending time with you today made me realize how much I yearn for our friendship, Ino. It's a feeling I've missed for so long. Ino eyes soften. You already know why it was because of Sasuke. They can't be it. What do you mean? Of course, it is, we literally declared that we were love rivals. No, it wasn't just that, I felt that we were drifting apart before I started liking Sasuke. Ino sighed. I didn't really feel like psychoanalyzing myself today, but I've thought about that too, and I came to a realization. What's that? I was more mad at the fact that I thought you were copying me than you liking Sasuke. What do you mean? In the academy, you changed, Sakura. I thought you were becoming more confident, but you kept acting like me. You became loud and pushy. You even started a fan club after me. It was just so annoying to see you copying everything I did. I became friends with you because you were you, not me. After you confessed your love to Sasuke, I took that as a final straw. I couldn't be friends with another me. So you acknowledge that you're hard to be friends with. Ino smiled. My dad taught me to be aware of my flaws. It must be hard to keep a list of those. Ino laughed. But I felt like we lost our dynamic. I am supposed to be the smart, cute, funny, extroverted one, and you are the dorky, shy one. Hey, Sakura punched Ino lightly on the shoulder. Sakura looked up at the evening sky. Thanks for telling me, Ino. I wasn't trying to copy you, I actually looked up to you. Ino nodded. Makes sense. Sakura narrowed her eyes. You really know how to ruin a moment, don't you? Ino shrugged. Hey, I'm just agreeing with you, looking up to me is something anyone in their right mind would do. Anyway, I'm just trying to say, Ino, I won't mimic you or anyone anymore. From now on, I will strive to be the best version of myself. A whooshing sound went through the air as a fireworks display launched into the night sky. An array of fireworks and lights followed as the Flame Festival fireworks show began. Sakura and Ino watched the fireworks in a comfortable silence. A couple months after the Flame Festival, Team 7 was coming back from a successful C rank. Man, what a disappointment. Literally, nothing happened. We just sat there guarding a herd of cows, complained Naruto. That's a good thing, Naruto. I thought we had already gone over this. You shouldn't go looking for a fight, scolded Anko. Yeah, but I wanted to guard something cool, like a bank or an artifact, not cows. As much as I hate to agree with Naruto, this mission was terrible. We've only fought bandits and people who barely have a grasp on chakra. I think we have grown strong enough to be tested by opponents near our level, voiced Sasuke. Anko glanced at Sakura. Do you believe the same? She asked, curious about her thoughts. Yeah, I do. I'm not saying our experience so far isn't useful, but we can never really know how strong we are until we face another ninja. Anko looked over to Kakashi, and he shrugged. To be honest with you guys, our luck as a team has been very good. Usually, by this point, we would have run into ninjas on one of our C ranks. Well, the ranking system is supposed to signify danger. It's not perfect, but if you guys really want to be tested, then I'll ask the Hokage for a B rank. The Jonin perked up. Really? You're the best, sis, complimented Naruto. Calm down. I can't make any promises, but I'll try to ask. Trust me, you guys are not the only ones bored with these missions. But don't think this is some sort of game. When I said we were lucky, I meant it. Don't forget the dangers that come with being a shinobi. Kakashi was at the front, enjoying the banter from his team. It made him nostalgic for his Team 7. In Ambu, it was completely silent during travel, so this was a nice change of pace. They were jumping through a dense forest, and the sound of wildlife and them hopping from branch to branch filled the air. Something peculiar caught Kakashi's attention, and he halted on a branch. The rest of the team mirrored his action, their curiosity piqued. What's wrong, Kakashi-sensei? Questioned Sakura. Kakashi stood for another moment. He had to make sure what he sensed was correct. He lifted his headband, revealing his Sharingan, and looked east. It verified what he felt. Kakashi's actions made everyone tense. Do we have enemies incoming, Kakashi? Asked Anko, as she put Senbon between her fingers. Kakashi pointed east. Someone is emitting their chakra in a distinct pattern, I'm familiar with it. Ambu employ it as a distress signal, indicating a grave situation, Kakashi explained, his voice tinged with concern. Why does that mean someone needs help? Asked Sakura. No, because Ambu never call for help if we are at risk of capture or death. They usually destroy their bodies, they only signal for help if they have essential info they have to pass on before their deaths. If someone is in trouble, then we have to help them, proclaimed Naruto. Kakashi looked at Anko. Do you think it's a good idea to bring the team? I can just go check it myself. Anko looked over to the Jonin, they all did their best, please don't leave us face. Anko sighed. I believe in them, plus we just talked about them needing more formidable challenges. Kakashi nodded. Okay, follow me, it's in this direction. They came upon an open clearing, and Kakashi had to hold back his shock. There were the scattered and bloody bodies of Leaf Ambu. Kakashi quickly searched for any nearby chakra signature, the source of the signal was one of the bodies against the tree. One of them is still alive, stated Kakashi. Kakashi then gave orders to the team. Sakura, go with Anko and see if you can sense any nearby chakra signatures. Naruto, create a few shadow clones and scan the surrounding area. If one is destroyed, report it immediately. And Sasuke, you're with me. Team 7, in perfect synchrony, followed Kakashi's orders and swiftly went to their assigned roles. Kakashi dropped down to the Anbu side and checked for a pulse. It was faint, but he was still alive. He checked the man over to see if he could patch up any wounds to save his life, but outside of a few cuts and bruises, there were no injuries that would result in the ninja's critical condition. Abruptly, one of the man's eyes opened, and he coughed, the action bringing him pain. The signal actually worked, I didn't expect it to do shit. What happened here? I recognized that voice, Kakashi. The survivor's voice was filled with surprise and intrigue. Wait, don't tell me, Ibiro, it's you. Good to see you again, Captain. Kakashi held back his shame at watching another comrade die and asked for details. Please, Ebrio, tell me what happened. In a strained, raspy voice, Ebrio began to explain. We were doing a check, Jiraiya found some info that led us to think there was a spy for Orochimaru in the village and that they may have a meeting in this area. Ebrio began coughing again, and Kakashi quickly let him sip from his canteen. We ran into a genin and we observed him for but it just seemed he was picking herbs. Everyone else wanted to leave, but my curiosity got the better of me. I told them to check out his bag that he left unattended. He was on us in a second. He was using a special technique. With his hands he would slice at us, and it was like he was cutting through your body. Crow went down immediately. And we engaged. He demolished us. I haven't seen anyone fight like that since you. I think he thought he killed me. He aimed for my heart, but he must have missed by a few centimeters. Lucky me, I guess. Ebrio gave a humorless chuckle and began to cough again, this time expelling blood. Come on, stay with me. We can get you back to the village. Ah, Captain. Still a bleeding heart, Haribo looked Kakashi straight in the eyes through his mask. Can you take off my mask? I want the world to see my beautiful face in my last moments, he said, still finding a chance to be humorous in his last moments. Kakashi obliged and took off his mask to reveal Erbio's face. He was middle-aged, with brown hair graying at the ends, a patchy beard, and an old scar across his cheek. Haribo looked up to the sun behind the canopy of the trees. You know, when I was under you, I thought this leader shit would be easy, but look at me now, I got my entire squad killed. It's not your fault, there is nothing you could have done. Haribo used the last of his strength to put his hand on Kakashi's shoulder. Captain, I need you to do something. Don't let that bastard get away with this, don't let me and my men die in vain. The info we got said the meeting would take place sometime past noon, you still have time. He went north, that's probably where the meeting is going to take place. Kakashi resigned his emotions and asked for more essential info. What did he look like? Did you recognize him? Haribo shook his head. He wore a cloak and a hood, and what little I saw of him, he was probably hinged, way too generic. Haribo let his hand fall off Kakashi's shoulder, leaned back against a tree, and closed his eyes. Thanks, Captain, I'm glad you came. He then slumped back into the tree. Kakashi put his head down momentarily, got up, and turned towards Sasuke. That are the others. We need to have a discussion. Team 7 met back up in the clearing. So what happened? Asked Anko. They were attacked by a spy for Orochimaru. They had a lead about a potential meeting, and they ran into him, explained Kakashi. Anko's heart skipped a beat at the mention of her former sensei, a mix of fear and nostalgia washing over her. Did they get anything on him, any lead on his identity? Asked Anko. His appearance was probably hinged. The only identifier was a technique he used when his hands would glow green, allowing him to cut internal organs, explained Kakashi. Anko thought for a moment. Sounds like the chakra scalpel, but only advanced medic ninjas use that technique, and I've never heard of it being used for combat. I thought so, too. Agreed Kakashi. So what do we do now? Questioned Sasuke. Anko's frustration was perceivable, her voice trembling with anger and concern. I would say go after the bastard, but if he was smart, he would have doubled back to the village to protect his identity. I doubt we could find him. Kakashi spoke up. Actually, Ebrio said he went north toward the presumed meeting area. This attack could not have happened no more than an hour ago, and there is still a chance he is still there. We have to go after him, Anko said, determined. Kakashi prepared himself for the backlash of his next suggestion. I think I should go by myself. What the hell do you mean by that? You can't expect us to just sit this out, Anko said, irritation in her voice. This is more than just your standard missing nin. We are talking about a spy who was able to take down an Ambu squad like it was nothing. We can't take the risk, Kakashi said, defending his reasoning. Was all that talk about us being a team just junk? As soon as things get a little tough, you have to go lone wolf on us. I'll be damned if I sit this one out, and you, of all people, know that I can't let this chance pass me by. This is the biggest lead we had on him for over a decade, yelled Anko. Yeah, sensei, we are a team, we can't just let you go alone, Naruto exclaimed. Kakashi looked down in shame, realizing that his suggestion contradicted his philosophy. I'm sorry. It's just that I don't want to lead you guys into danger when I'm not sure I can keep you all safe. Anko walked over and placed a hand on Kakashi's shoulder. You don't give us enough credit, we worked hard for months to get these kids ready for anything. You've seen how hard they have worked and how much they have grown, believe in them. Yeah, sensei, let's go kick this guy's ass, Naruto said, hyped up from Anko's speech. We won't let you go alone, we're a team, said Sakura. We haven't trained this hard to be left out as soon as things get tough, declared Sasuke. Kakashi felt proud upon seeing the resolve in his team. Okay, let's go, just be careful. Team 7 leaped through the trees northward, looking for the meeting place. Something caught Anko's eye. There's a clearing over there. They rushed over to the clearing, and when it came into view, they saw a cloaked figure standing in the middle. Each member swiftly ascended their chosen tree, positioning themselves for the impending encounter. Anko and Kakashi, their eyes locked, began a silent conversation, their hands moving in a blur of signs, strategizing their next move. Engage hostile immediately, Anko signed, her eagerness to confront the spy palpable in the air. Kakashi shook his head and signed back. Risky observe wait follow. Frustration came over Anko, and she signed aggressively. Opportunity ignore risk. Their planning was cut short as 5 figures jumped into the clearing before the cloaked man. The shortest figure, a woman with a vibrant mane of dark pink hair, stood out among the group. Her attire, a black shirt under a tan tunic, was adorned with a symbol on the hem. She wore black arm warmers, traditional black shinobi sandals with calf-length leg warmers covered by bandages, and a purple rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around her waist. The black hat with pipe-like stripes and bandaged sides completed her ensemble, keeping her bangs in place, while the rest cascaded down her back. Next to her was a man with light blue hair with one of his bangs covering his eye. He wore a black shirt under brown tunics with long sleeves that bore a symbol on the hem and black skin-tight shorts. They wore black arm warmers, traditional black shinobi sandals with calf-length leg warmers covered by bandages, and a purple rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around their waists. The tallest member was a large and imposing young man, towering over the rest of his teammates. He had fair skin and narrowed, slanted orange eyes. He had 3 tufts of orange hair on his head. A mohawk running down the middle and 2 similarly styled tufts at the side. His attire was a beige-colored, sleeveless tunic and a pair of black. He wore black arm warmers and a necklace with red circular pieces, separating long, metallic pieces. He wore traditional black shinobi sandals, mid-calf leg warmers covered by bandages, and a purple rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around his waist. Next to him was a dark-skinned shinobi with black, shaggy hair tied into a ponytail and black eyes. He was the second tallest member of the team. He also had 6 arms and was the only one wearing a shinobi headband with a musical note on it. His attire was a black, sleeveless shirt under a sleeveless gray tunic and black skin-tight shorts. He wore black arm warmers, traditional black shinobi sandals with calf-length leg warmers covered by bandages, and a purple rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around his waist. In front was a pale-skinned man with vivid green eyes, angular facial features, 2 scarlet dots on his forehead, and shoulder-length white hair. He wore a light lavender, loose-fitting, long-sleeved, zip-up shirt, black pants cut off around mid-calf, bandages wrapped around his ankles, traditional shinobi sandals, and a purple rope-like belt tied in an inverted bow around his waist. He also wore 2 red, 2 black hair ornaments, one on either side of his head, securing 2 locks of his silvery white hair. Kakashi and Anko's eyes widened in recognition when their gazes crossed over the 6-armed ninja in the clearing. The cloaked man spoke first. "You're late," the cloaked man's voice carried a hint of impatience. "I risk being discovered with each passing moment I'm out of the village." His words hung in the air, the tension palpable. "Sorry, it's not exactly a leisurely walk to get here," said Taiya. "Quiet," Cimro said as he glared at Taiya. She shrunk in on herself and looked at the ground. He turned back toward the cloaked figure. "Give us the dossier, and we'll be on our way." Naruto sat silently in the tree. He didn't really know what was happening, but he got a terrible feeling from everyone in the clearing. Naruto then felt something crawl on his arm, and he looked to see a spider. He panicked and quickly smacked it against the tree. He looked around, worried he made too much noise, but he didn't even get the attention of his teammates. At the same time, Kidaru flinched, face twitching in the clearing. He opened his eyes. Kidaru looked at the cloaked man. "You know, for being the boss's second in command, I would have thought you would have made sure there weren't any bugs following you." Kidaru produced a golden metallic material from his pores, molded it into a kunai, and threw it at Naruto. This caught Naruto off guard as he moved out of the way, but he lost his footing when he fell off the tree and into the clearing. All the figures in the clearing turned toward Naruto. Anko dropped down next to Naruto, afraid to leave him alone in the open, with the rest of the team following suit. Kakashi and Anko stood in front of the Jonin. The Cimro gave the spy a bored look. "You should leave. If your identity is discovered, our master's plan may fall through. Just their knowing of your existence puts that at risk. I don't know what makes you think you have superiority over me. You may be a vessel, but that doesn't mean I can't put you in your place if you overstep your authority," the spy retorted. The two shared a tense silence. "I would be interested to see how that would go," Cimro said, his face giving away no emotion. The figure smiled lightly under the hood and body flickered away from the clearing. During this time, Team 7 made a plan. "Do you recognize any of them?" asked Kakashi. Anko shook her head. "I've never seen them in any bingo book, but that is definitely the 6-armed guy who was getting Orochimaru's test subjects. Also, that white-haired guy has markings of the Kagaya clan." Heiya was the first to speak to them. "I don't know who you are, but you assholes stumbled upon the wrong place." Kakashi then whispered instructions back to the Jonin. "We shouldn't try to engage with them. Our main priority should be returning to the village with the information we gathered." "Oh, my signal, go the way we came and return to the village." Cimro's eye wandered over at Sasuke and spotted the Uchiha symbol on his clothing. He then spoke. Interesting, our master may forgive this early engagement if we manage to kill the copy ninja and take the Uchiha. Cimro's statement further fueled Kakashi's decision for them to run. Go! Yelled Kakashi. Anko threw a smoke bomb down. Don't let them escape. Kakashi is a formidable opponent, I'll take him. The rest of you, handle the others, Cimro's voice boomed with urgency. Cimro then began after his quarry with the rest of the Sound 5. Sasuke was filled with anger at himself. This was his chance to prove himself. But when the white-haired man's piercing gaze fell on him, a wave of unease washed over him, threatening to shatter his confidence. Why are we running? Asked Sasuke. We have no reason to engage them. Kakashi's voice was firm, but the tension in the air was palpable. Who were those people? Inquired Sakura. Orochimaru's henchmen, high-ranking ones at that. I think I saw curse marks on a few of them. Trust me, guys, my entire being wanted to stay back and fight them, but we can't risk it, said Anko, frustration layering her voice. Without warning, a volley of golden kunai whizzed through the air, their metallic gleam cutting through the dense woods. The group was caught off guard and forced to scatter in different directions to avoid the deadly projectiles. Behind them, the Sound 5 were gaining on them. Kakashi looked over at Naruto. Naruto, we need a diversion. Create shadow clones, transform them into us, and send them in different directions. We have to split up. If we stay together, they'll track us down easily, Kakashi strategized. Are you sure that's a good idea? Asked Anko. Kakashi felt anxious and conflicted about whether this was the right decision. I don't like it, but I believe in you. Focus on retreating, keeping your wits, and staying safe. Everyone nodded, and Naruto created dozens of shadow clones, transformed into Team 7, and began to spread out in all directions. Cimro slowed down and analyzed the clones, they split into two groups. The woman and the blonde went east, Taiya and Kidaru, I need you to follow them, Jobo, focus on capturing the Uchiha and Saen, I trust you will dispatch the girl and assist me with Haddock. The Sound 5 followed their leader's orders and went after their targets. After several minutes of fleeing, Naruto and Anko dodged another flurry of projectiles from Kidaru. Damn it, turn around and fight us, you leaf trash, yelled Taiya. Anko considered their current situation. While she and Naruto could fight these two, they had to return to the village and meet the rest of their team. She turned toward Naruto. Naruto, do the shadow clone thing again. He nodded and put his hands on the ram seal. Shadow clone jutsu. Naruto created 20 clones, transformed half of them into Anko, and had them speed in various directions. Good job, Anko praised as she and Naruto changed directions and blended in with the clones. Just the melody of a flute hit their ears. Anko's vision began to distort. She immediately recognized the Jinjutsu and disrupted her chakra. The vision faded, but she looked over and did not see Naruto. She looked down to see him careening toward the ground. Anko took action immediately and hopped off the tree at full speed, catching Naruto before he hit the ground. Naruto began to scream, still trapped in the Jinjutsu. Anko channeled chakra into Naruto, disrupting the Jinjutsu. What happened? Said Naruto, still dazed. Ninjutsu, whatever that noise was probably the source. Good observation, Taiya said as she landed on a branch above. At the same time, Kidaru landed on another near her. That was nice scurrying, but Jinjutsu doesn't affect shadow clones, so it was easy to single you out. Kidaru spoke, what will the rats do now that they are cornered? Anko looked at Naruto, and he had a look of determination in his eyes and nodded. She looked back toward the Sound Ninja and smiled. Well, it looks like we have to fight. We wanted to save you the trouble, but it seems you guys need to have your asses kicked. Tough talk from a bunch of bugs. We'll see if you can put your money where your mouth is. Taiya bit her thumb, ran through hand signs, and placed her hand down. Summoning jutsu. After the smoke cleared, 3 giant ogre-like creatures stood in front of her. Whoa, bringing out the doki this early, you must be pissed, I guess I'll follow suit, Kidaru said as he bit his thumb as well, and weaved through hand signs. Summoning jutsu. A giant spider then formed, Kidaru spit on his hands and began to form it into a giant spider web that went across the treetops. Anko cursed under her breath, it was just their luck, not only 2 summoners, but they also had unique abilities. Looks like she couldn't hold back here. She picked her finger on one of her Seiban and performed. Summoning jutsu. The giant blue snake appeared with Anko standing on top of its head. Naruto looked in awe at Anko. Taiya's smile grew wide. This is even better, we get to fight the failure the master talked about. Failure? Anko said, trying to hold back her emotions. You're the one who couldn't even activate your curse mark, I doubt you'll be much of a challenge, commented Kidaru. Kidaru and Taiya then activated their level 1 curse mark. Kidaru spread across his body in black entangling lines, while Taiya's went across in straight lines in a jagged zigzag pattern. Well, unlike you, I don't need someone else's power to be strong. I have enough power here between myself and this future Hokage, Anko said. Then she looked at Naruto and nodded. He took that as a signal, threw a shuriken, and performed the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. Hundreds of shurikens flew at Taiya and Kidaru. Taiya played a melody and ordered the doki to defect the shurikens. Kidaru formed webs in the path of the shuriken. They were unable to cut the webs and stopped in their path. Anko took this chance to quickly strategize with Naruto. She ordered her snake to get down next to Naruto and began talking. I'll take the spider guy, and you take the flute girl. My advice is to get that flute away from her. It seems that most of her abilities are based on it. Naruto nodded. Got it. Also, take these. Anko put something in Naruto's hand, and he looked at it. Thanks, be careful, sis. I should be telling you that. Anko hopped on her snake and began to race toward Kidaru. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto created 20 shadow clones and had them charge at the doki. If all you can do is create clones, then that won't be enough, mocked Taiya. The clones then began to get into formations. 5 clones stayed back, and 3 other groups of 5 went toward the doki. Taiya was curious about the strange formation, but she wrote it off as she played a song on her flute, and the doki then went toward the clones. Now! Yelled the group in the back. In the first 3 groups, 1 clone crouched down, and another clone jumped off the back of it, leaping in the air and clasping their hands together. The 3 clones behind then made hand signs and performed Wine-style Great Breakthrough. This launched the clone forward rapidly toward the doki. The clones then yelled Ill style. Palm strike. One of the doki was sent flying, while the other 2 were thrown off balance. Seeing a lapse in Taiya's defense, the group in the back moved. 3 clones threw shuriken and performed the Shuriken Shadow Clone Jutsu. Creating hundreds of shuriken. The other 2 then performed Wine-style Great Breakthrough. This sent all of the shuriken flying toward Taiya. Damn it, Taiya said as she saw the amount of shuriken. Her doki wouldn't get to her fast enough to block the shuriken. Taiya ran to a nearby tree, dodging projectiles. She managed to make her way and land on the back of a tree trunk. She had various cuts, and some of her hair was cut. You bastard, Taiya shouted. She jumped to a nearby branch and played a song to get her doki in position to attack, but when she looked at the surrounding area where Naruto was, he was nowhere to be found. The fucker must have hidden during the commotion. She looked around, waiting for Naruto to reappear. Just then, from above, multiple Narutos began to descend upon her. Taiya played the melody and had her doki attack the clones, while she relocated to a different branch. She interrupted her song and cast a Jinjutsu with her flute to discover the real Naruto. The clones dispersed, and one of the Naruto began to scream and fall onto the branch. Toya grinned. Nice try, punk, but you couldn't hope to beat me if you're shit at Jinjutsu. She then commanded one of the doki to crush the downed Naruto. Right before the club hit him, Naruto smiled and exploded in smoke. What the fuck? Toya said in surprise. She then quickly turned around to see Naruto flying toward her, reaching toward her flute. She managed to pull it back in time before he could grab it. Frustration came across Naruto's face, but he then turned his body, began to channel wind chakra around his leg, and aimed a kick at Toya's chest. Ill style. Cyclone kick. When Naruto's foot made contact, Toya flew backward, and a cyclone of wind sent her careening backward into a tree. When she hit the tree and began to fall, she quickly played a melody, and one of the doki caught her and landed on a branch. What the hell? Why didn't that work? Naruto grinned. If you're asking why that didn't work. He pulled a piece of cotton out of his ear. I need to thank sis for giving me these. He then gave Toya a determined look. Just wait, next time, I will get that flute. Anko stood on the head of her summon, staring down Kidaru. This is quite an interesting matchup, snake versus the spider. I wonder who will come out on top. Do you always talk this much before you fight? Asked Anko. It is only natural to banter with your opponent before a match. I hope you make this game interesting. My assignments of late have been less than invigorating. Anko tightened her fist. Kidnapping families to be test subjects is not exciting enough for you. Kidaru shrugged. It's just a part of working under the boss. He smirked. I'm sure you know a lot about that. Tired of the conversation, Anko made the first move, launching several Seben. Kidaru and his spider moved across the web L. He then created more weapons and began throwing golden kunai. Anko's summon moved away from the projectiles. Rush him, he's a long-range fighter, ordered Anko. Her summon followed her orders and began to extend upwards toward the web. Kidaru was prepared for her to get close. He created a kunai and slit the stomach of his spider summon open. Anko shivered as she saw hundreds of small spiders fall from the spider's belly. She quickly hopped off of the snake and fell back towards the ground. The snake was unable to change momentum. She was caught in the swarm, and the spiders began to bite into it. The snake hissed in pain before it disarmed itself. As Anko continued falling, she looked at the massive wave of spiders approaching her. She needed a massive jutsu and went through hand signs. High release. Great flame jutsu. Anko expelled flames that widened as they went further. This decimated the small spiders and engulfed the spider summon, dismissing it. Once the flames cleared, Kidaru was nowhere to be seen, but his voice began to echo through the forest. I should have guessed that a leaf shinobi would have fire jutsu and such a powerful one. I should expect no less from the master's former student. I can't hold back in this scenario. Kidaru's body underwent a grotesque metamorphosis. His skin turned a deep ominous red, and his once human eyes now glowed a piercing yellow. His teeth and nails elongated into sharp points, and his hair grew long and gray. Horns sprouted from his forehead, shoulders, and elbows, and his mouth stretched wider. He removed his headband, exposing a third eye. With a calculated precision, he carefully produced a sticky gold web from his mouth, creating a bow. He maneuvered himself using his webs and all 8 limbs to aim and load the bow. He used his third eye to locate Anko's chakra. He saw she was hiding behind a tree. He produced an arrow and began to shape its head into a drill. Anko leaned against a tree. This guy was a long-range fighter through and through. She would try to sense his chakra to find his location, but with all of the residue chakra from her technique and the summons, that would be nearly impossible. As she thought of possible strategies, Anko heard a whooshing sound and quickly ducked. The tree behind split open as an arrow cut the top of her shoulder. Realizing that hiding was futile, Anko swiftly analyzed the situation. She looked at the hole the arrow had made in the tree, which gave her a rough idea of Kidaru's location. With a plan forming in her mind, she dashed out from behind the tree, zigzagging towards where she thought the arrow had been fired. Anko focused her chakra to enhance her hearing, knowing that her visual reaction time might not be enough to dodge the arrows. Anko heard an arrow as she turned. As the arrow scraped across her stomach, Kidaru began to load another arrow. This was not ideal. She was so direct with her strategy, it gave him opportunities but didn't give him time to plan. Anko threw a smoke bomb, and Kidaru focused his third eye. He saw her chakra split as 2 Ankos ran out from opposite sides of the smoke. Kidaru's heart raced as he realized the gravity of the situation. He needed to end this quickly, or he would be forced into close combat, a scenario he was ill-prepared for. Determination etched on his face. He attached a string to his next arrow and aimed it at the Anko to his right. With a swift motion, he fired. As she began to dodge, he deftly manipulated the string, altering the arrow's trajectory. It struck her square in the chest, and she vanished in a puff of smoke. Kidaru resolved himself. This fight would be over instantly as long as he could do that again. He repeated the same process, attached a string to the end of his arrow, and fired at Anko. His aim wasn't as true, but it got her in her upper thigh. Kidaru celebrated internally. The fight was his. She stood no chance of dodging his next attack if she lost her mobility. His rivalry ended when the other Anko burst into smoke. High release. Dragon fire technique. He only had a moment to process as the ground beneath the tree he was in exploded and a fire dragon came toward him from below. Due to his positioning in the tree, he couldn't properly maneuver and the technique hit him dead on. He dropped his bow and his webs burned away as he fell from the tree. He rolled around on the ground, expelling his sticky web from his skin to put out the fire. After a moment, Kidaru was on his hands and knees, burns covering most of his body, with his right side taking most of the damage. He began to get up, but out of the ground beneath him came Anko, who pinned down his arms and held a kunai to his throat. Don't move. Tell me everything you know, or I'll kill you. Kidaru laughed through his immense pain. Killing me now will be a mercy compared to what Orochimaru will do to me, he said as he jerked his head forward, forcing the kunai to pierce his throat. He stared up at Anko as he began to choke and bleed out. Anko sighed and got up. She looked down at him as he transformed from his curse-mark state. He couldn't have been much older than her genin. Anko squeezed her fist. This could have been her if her curse mark had been successful. Visions of her former teacher incited tears of rage and regret to stream down her cheeks. She then heard Naruto's battle not far away. She cleared her thoughts and went to assist her student. Sasuke dodged another large tree branch being thrown at him as he was forced further away from his teammates. He needed to find a way to lose this guy. His thoughts were interrupted when another large branch interrupted his path, forcing him to land on the ground. Jobo landed in front of him. To think of our luck, Master Orochimaru has expressed interest in you. He'll be pleased if we capture you, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind if I have myself a snack first. Jobo ran through hand signs. Earth release barrier. Earth prison dome of magnificent nothingness. A rock dome encased Sasuke. He analyzed the wall briefly. It looked like a normal earth barrier. Sasuke then placed his hands on the dome and used lighting release. Depth charge. Sasuke began channeling the lighting chakra through the dome. The dome began to break apart as chunks started to fall off. There was a brief opening where Sasuke could see the light coming through, but the dome quickly began repairing itself. Sasuke stopped his jutsu, and suddenly, he felt a portion of his chakra drain away. Sasuke wondered why he felt he had used a third of his. He looked around, the dome was fully repaired as if nothing had happened. He heard Jobo laughing outside the dome. "You're probably wondering why your little lighting attack didn't work. Chakra continuously circulates throughout the dome, reinforcing and allowing it to repair itself. Thanks for the chakra. I didn't expect a kid like you to have this much. Don't worry, I won't kill you, but we will be here for a while, so you might as well sit and accept your fate." Sasuke started to analyze the situation. The dome was even resistant to lightning attacks, and it felt like he was drained of chakra. Sasuke looked around the dome. He needed to attack at the point where the chakra was less concentrated. He then began to use depth charge to send tiny shocks to different points in the wall. "I told you it's useless, you're just going to get weaker faster. I recommend you come to terms with your fate. I don't want to overdrain your chakra." Inside, Sasuke hit a point on the side of the dome. A more significant chunk of earth fell off before reforming more slowly than the other point he hit. "That must be it," thought Sasuke. He then put his left hand in the ram hand sign and channeled lightning chakra to his right. Lighting release bullet. Powerful breath. Sasuke thrust his fist forward, sending a powerful bolt of lightning at the weakest spot in the dome. Jobo, from outside, felt the dome shake as he saw lightning burst from the other side of the dome. He then took his hand off of the dome and jumped to the other side, landing in front of the new hole. Sasuke emerged from the dome. "Impressive, no one has been able to find the weakness of my technique that quickly before. I can see why our master is now interested in you." Sasuke smirked. "Now that you're out of tricks, get out of my way so I can get back to my team." Jobo chuckled. "You're sorely mistaken if you think our fight is over." The mark on the side of his neck expanded as it stretched out into chain triangle-like markings over his body. "This a taste of what Lord Orochimaru will have in store for you." Jobo then jumped towards Sasuke. Sasuke dodged backward and saw the earth split open where Jobo landed. Jobo charged, trying to perform a shoulder tackle. Sasuke dodged to the side at the last moment. Jobo took the rest of his momentum and ran first into a tree, toppling it. Sasuke observed the destructive power of Jobo's taijutsu. One hit could be severe. Sasuke threw shuriken wrapped in ninja wire and angled them to wrap the wire around Jobo's. Sasuke held the end of the ninja wire and prepared to channel lightning chakra, but Jobo flexed and tore the ninja wire like paper. He then moved forward and began to engage in taijutsu with Sasuke. Despite his size, Jobo's strikes were fast and precise, and Sasuke used his full attention to dodge. He had to jump to avoid the crumbling earth when Jobo stomped the ground. Jobo took advantage of this vulnerability and thrust a palm strike at Sasuke. Sasuke managed to get both of his arms up to block, but the force of the strike sent Sasuke tumbling backward. When he recovered, Jobo was on top of him again. Sasuke reached into his pouch and threw a flash bomb, which blinded Jobo and allowed Sasuke to get some distance. Sasuke then went through the hand sign and performed Fire Release Dragon Fire Technique. The fire dragon went toward Jobo. Jobo quickly placed his hands on the ground and used Earth Release Shore Return, forming a wall of earth in front of the dragon. At the last second, Sasuke made the dragon alter its path and directed it around the wall, hitting Jobo. There was an explosion of flames. Sasuke waited a few moments and then heard the ground rumbling as the ground behind the earth wall began to rise until a massive boulder was lifted into the air. Jobo was covered in burns but managed to avoid critical damage by coating himself in the earth. "Nice move, kid, but food isn't supposed to fight back." He then threw the chunk of earth at Sasuke. Earth Release. Earth Mausoleum Dumpling. Sasuke's eyes widened. "Didn't this guy say we wanted me alive?" He dashed towards the side and narrowly avoided the boulder, but the impact knocked him away deeper into the forest. Jobo smiled to himself. This kid was something else. He went to the last place he saw Sasuke, but he wasn't anywhere to be seen. "Damn it, don't tell me she ran. Cimro might kill me." 5 smoke bombs dropped from above, making a circle around Jobo's. Jobo stood in the center, looking around to see what direction he was coming from. The smoke began to disperse, and he still didn't see Sasuke. He looked up to see Sasuke above the lighting chakra surrounding his fist. Lighting Release Bullet. Powerful Breath. Sasuke sent a powerful bolt of lightning from above that directly hit Jobo. He heard his scream and landed a distance from the impact site. Once the dust cleared, he saw Jobo on the ground, his features twitching angrily. "How dare you, I can't believe I have to use this on a kid like you." Jobo's curse mark began to glow. Sakura and Kakashi kept dashing through the forest after being separated from Sasuke. Kakashi noticed that they had made no distance on them, and their 2 pursuers were actually gaining. Realizing that they couldn't avoid conflict, Kakashi turned toward Sakura and said. Sakura, I need you to lead away the one with the blue hair. Why, sensei, can we both fight them together? Kakashi shook his head. The one with the markings is most likely the leader, he also has markings of a clan with a very dangerous Kekkei Genkai, if he has access to it, he will be an extremely dangerous opponent, I can't risk you having you near me when I fight him. Sakura nodded. Okay, sensei. Be careful, don't wander too far. I'm going to track you down after I finish him. Got it. Sakura changed her path and began leaping away from Kakashi. Saen looked at Cimro. Should I follow her? Go ahead, just finish her quickly, said Cimro. Saen began to leap after her. Sakura saw a small clearing and touched down, preparing for a fight. Saen landed across from her, smug expression on his face. Sakura charged, extending 2 fingers. Saken's eyes followed them, anticipating a technique. In a sudden twist, Sakura circled her fingers. Saken's vision blurred, ensnared by the drunken sight technique. A kunai was hurled, and Saen evaded, his balance disrupted. Seizing the moment, Sakura aimed a strike at his unguarded side. Her punch never landed as her arm was struck. Saen recovered as he unleashed a powerful front kick, driving it into Sakura's chest with brutal force. The impact was staggering, knocking the wind out of Sakura as she was sent hurtling backward, her body skimming across the ground. She pushed herself up, holding her chest and coughing, trying to get the air back into her lungs. That was the hardest she had been hit in her entire life. Sakura looked over to Saen, who hadn't moved and was grinning at her. Oh, how I love the look of fear people get when they realize they are sorely outmatched. What would you do now, run, keep fighting, or just curl up in a ball and give up? Please don't do that last one, it's not satisfying when my opponents give up. Sakura's eyes widened with fear, she was sure he was off guard. The Jinjutsu connected, but it was as if another person had hit her before she made contact. Was he just that fast? If he was, her chances of victory seemed slim. Sakura shook her head, dismissing her initial thoughts. If someone was moving at such a speed, she would have caught a glimpse of an afterimage, but Saen didn't move at all. Sakura stood and turned towards Saen, eyes full of determination. Ooh, a feisty one, this should be interesting. Her heart pounding, Sakura remained silent, this man's abilities, whatever they were, seemed to activate whenever she drew near. Sakura only knew one other earth jutsu in earth flow spears, which could be used at a distance. Still, it could be easily dodged if she didn't use the technique at the right moment. Sakura bit her lip, strategy wouldn't matter until she figured out what this guy had done earlier. Saen, growing impatient with Sakura's standing, rushed forward. Sakura managed to move back to dodge Saken's blow, but she fell as she felt herself get struck in the ankle. Saen put his foot up, about to stomp on her chest. Sakura molded the earth beneath her and sank into it, leaving Saen to create a small crater. Crafty, commented Saen. You shouldn't waste time. Saen looked back. Oh, shut up, let me have fun, the girl is no threat. Sakura had to focus on executing her next move. She had improved her mastery of the hiding like a mole technique and extended her range. She had used it in spars before and she could only hope it would work now. If it did, she could get a hit on his blind spot. Saen saw the earth split open before him and prepared to block the incoming strike. When it didn't come, he looked backward to see another hole behind him. Thank you, brother. Sakura stood in shock as her hand was caught by another Saen coming out of his back. Another arm reached out and wrapped its hand around Sakura's neck, suffocating her. She quickly pulled a kunai and tried to stab the arm with her free hand. The hand let go, and the arm disappeared into Saken's body. As Sakura was let go, she rolled away, creating distance. Sakura got up on shaky legs, she looked at Saen as she saw another head sprout beside his own. You can create more limbs. Sakura said as he ran a hand over her bruised neck. No, this is my brother Yukin. He can meld into my body, he comes out when I need some help fighting. Yukin turned toward his brother. As I told you before, finish this girl quickly, we must return to Cimro. He may need help with Haddock. Saen scoffed, but he relented. Fine, I guess you have a point. I'm sorry, girlie. It looks like we need to end our fun early. Sakura smiled as she got the info she needed. She darted forward, her hand diving into her tool pouch, retrieving a handful of material. She took a deep breath and exhaled it toward Saen and Yukin, who were left bewildered. In an instant, she descended into the earth, vanishing from their sight. As Saen stood in a daze, a shower of white petals descended around them, accompanied by a gentle, alluring scent. Yukin's voice dripped with frustration. I warned you to put an end to that girl. Now she slipped away with nothing more than a mere party trick. Oh, can it? She couldn't have gone far. Saen suddenly began coughing into his hand, and when he looked, he saw it covered in blood. Yukin followed suit and started coughing. Weakness overtook the brothers as their temperatures rose, their bodies trembling with an unknown force. "I can't believe it, she poisoned us," Saen said in disbelief. "You fool, this is why you don't play in battle. We must get to Kidaru quickly to see if he has an antidote." Distracted, the brothers didn't notice as the spikes started to come from the ground. Earth release earth flow spears. Saen barely managed to prevent him and his brother from getting fully impaled, but Saen had to break off a spike in his arm and thigh. "Damn it, that bitch." Saen looked at his hand to see no blood and that all of the symptoms of the poison were gone. He looked over at the ground to see shredded pieces of paper on the ground where they stood. "Injutsu," snarled Saen, his anger palpable. "I'm out here." Sakura emerged from the ground. "I'm glad you told me you had separate bodies. That means you both have separate senses." Sakura put her fist into her hand. "So, will you curl into a ball now or keep fighting?" "Oh, just watch," Saen said as his curse mark began to glow orange. Kakashi stood in front of Cimro with his revealed Sharingan. "Pagaya, huh? I heard your clan was wiped out by the mist years ago." Cimro's curse mark began to spread across his entire body and contorting in parallel lines. Cimro kept a straight expression. "Do not stall, Haddock, I wish to fight you as soon as possible. My master will be pleased with me when I defeat you." Cimro reached into his upper arm and pulled out his bone, forming a sword. Dance of the Camellia. Cimro, in a swift motion, rushed forward in the dimly lit forest clearing, his strikes aimed at Kakashi's vulnerable spots. Kakashi prepared to dodge and look for an opening. Cimro's strikes were blazing fast. He studied Cimro's movements. Each stab was aimed at a slightly different part of Kakashi, and he also changed the angle of the strikes each time. Any other fighter would have no hope of deflecting his attacks unless they had a Sharingan. Kakashi took his kunai and parried one of Cimro's blows. This made Cimro show his first emotion other than indifference, as he had a surprised look on his face, his mouth slightly open and his eyebrows raised. Kakashi took his opening and slammed his kunai into Cimro's chest, only for the kunai to pierce the skin and then stop, sending force up Kakashi's arm, causing him pain. He quickly stepped back, dodging a fatal blow, but getting sliced across his thigh. "Damn, it looks like he can manipulate his bones to guard his vitals," thought Kakashi. Cimro looked at Kakashi. "So that's the power of the Sharingan. No one has ever even survived my Camellia dance, much less deflected. Yes, my master will be very pleased, I shall take your eye to him." Cimro then put his bone sword back into his arm. Spikes of bone then began to protrude from his body and various points. Dance of the Willow. Kakashi's mind raced as he assessed the situation. Engaging in close combat with an opponent who could transform his entire body into a weapon was dangerous. Kakashi's lack of long-range jutsu that could inflict significant damage was a glaring weakness. The longer this fight dragged on, the more chakra Kakashi was losing. The urgency of the situation was clear. He needed to end this quickly, and the only way to do that was to fight up close. Cimro began to engage Kakashi. In his new dance, he dashed forward and thrust the two bones in his palms at Kakashi. Kakashi managed to block one of them, but the other sliced the top of his shoulder. At times like this, he wished he still had a sword. Cimro then spun. Kakashi had to step back to avoid the remaining spikes on his body. Cimro continued to charge at Kakashi, giving him no room to breathe. Kakashi waited for an opening. The jutsus he had to use were chakra intensive, and he couldn't afford to miss. He saw his chance when Cimro pushed the spikes in his arms forward. Kakashi shot forward and began forming a chakra spiral in his right palm. Rasengan. Kakashi was cut across his torso and upper arm. A bone was lodged in his thigh, but he hit his target when he slammed the Rasengan into Cimro's stomach. When it made contact, Cimro's eyes widened. He coughed up blood and was sent sprawling backward, but he managed to land, dragging his knee across the ground. Kakashi gave no quarter as he unleashed his most deadly jutsu. Bakiri, Lightning Cutter. Kakashi held condensed lightning in his palm, propelling forward at inhuman speed. Cimro, caught off guard, looked up only to see a flash of blue light as Kakashi plunged the Rakiri through his chest. Despite his near chakra exhaustion and the imminent threat of bleeding out, Kakashi pushed aside his own pain and worry. His unwavering loyalty and concern for his comrades drove him forward. He needed to find the rest of his team. Suddenly, he felt a surge of chakra emanating from the direction of Cimro's body. He looked over to see Cimro's skin begin to darken. As he got up, the hole in his chest began to heal. Kakashi realized that this fight wasn't close to over rethinking his strategy. He didn't have enough chakra to unleash that combo again, and he doubted it would be enough to keep Chimera done. It also seemed he had a few minutes until he fully recovered. Making a decision, Kakashi dabbed a finger in one of his wounds and went through hand signs. Summoning Jutsu. A small pug-like dog appeared with brown fur, dark brown snout, and ears. Akin looked at the state of Kakashi and said, Why can't you ever summon me into good situations? I need you to lead me to my student, she should be fighting nearby. Akin began to sniff the air and looked west. She should be this way. Can you still move? Kakashi groaned and got up. Let's go. Things had gotten out of hand for Sakura, though, since activating the second stage, the brothers' teamwork had kept her on the back foot, preventing her from attacking. She dodged a kick but was nailed in the side by a punch, sending her sprawling. She stood prepared to keep fighting. Where's the tough talk now, girlie? She breathed heavily, trying to come up with a strategy. Suddenly, a nearly fresh Kakashi landed beside her, surprising the brothers. Yo, I don't think it's fair that you keep harassing my student. Where is Kimimaro? Asked Saen. In clearing a few minutes that way, you might want to check on him. You're lying. Accused Yukin. Do you want to test that? Kakashi said as he narrowed his eyes. Yukin looked at Saen. This is why I told you to finish this sooner. We should check on him to confirm if he really beat Kimimaro. I doubt we'll have much of a chance. The brothers returned to Thayer Stage 1 form and Yukin melded back into Saen as they headed toward Kimimaro. After the brothers left, Sakura exhaled the breath she was holding. Thank you, sensei. I don't know what I should have done. Sakura said in relief. The hinge hiding Kakashi's injuries dispelled and he dropped to one knee. Sakura gasped at her teacher's state. What happened? I disabled their leader, but he's regenerating now, they'll find out soon, we have to retreat. What about the others? I sent my summon to find Sasuke and lead him to us, and I trust Anko to keep Naruto safe. Come on, we have to move. Sakura hesitated. Sensei, we should treat your wounds first. We'll do that when we get somewhere safe, we have to leave before they return. Kakashi jumped into the trees, and Sakura followed. Saen arrived to see a detransformed Kimimaro standing, looking up at the sky. He landed. Kimimaro, what happened? Kimimaro looked over at him. I failed. No one had ever broken through my defense before, and he did it twice in a row. Kimimaro's voice was filled with shame and disbelief, his eyes downcast. Did you take care of the girl? No, we had her on the ropes, but Kakashi showed up and told us you were defeated. Why did you not fight? He must have been heavily injured. He must have been hinged, he looked fresh, said Saen without his usual confidence, worried he would be punished for such a crucial mistake. Well, I take offense that you would believe that I would leave my opponents fresh, we have more pressing matters. I need you to find Jobo and help him secure the Uchiha. Our connection with Kidaru has faded, I'll go and assist them. The urgency in Kimimaro's voice was clear. Shouldn't we hunt down the girl and Kakashi? Asked Saen. Kakashi is heavily injured. They can't move far, we can track them down later. Okay, I got it. Saen hurried off to find Jobo with a determined stride. At the same time, Kimimaro went to check on the status of the other members of his team. Anko found herself in a whirlwind of events, the tide turning against her and Naruto with alarming speed. One moment, they were on the verge of triumph over the flute girl, and the next, they were trapped, their backs against a menacing ravine. Anko looked down at her wounded leg, she and Naruto had no hope of fighting this bone dude at close range, and had the cuts to prove it. Naruto stood next to her, breathing heavily, covered in cuts. Kimimaro approached slowly, bone spikes protruding from his body. Anko winched. There was no way they could fight this guy, she looked back at the ravine behind them, judging the drop, she turned toward Naruto. Hey, can you swim? Anko asked, her voice filled with urgency. He looked at her. Yeah, I can. Good. Hey, what are you? Without a moment's hesitation, Anko made a daring decision. She wrapped her arms tightly around Naruto and leaped into the unknown, plunging into the ravine towards the river below. Kimimaro looked down the cliff face. Taiya stood beside him. They can't have gone far. We can still catch them, Taiya suggested. Don't bother, you've failed miserably in your task. You even allowed Kidaru to be killed, and I liked him much more than you. Taiya shrunk in on herself. The only reason I won't kill you now is that I also failed in my task, and you still have used Orochimaru. Come, let's meet back up with the others. Kakashi hopped from tree to tree with Sakura ahead of him. Sakura looked back, he was laboring and going slow. Sensei, we can stop and take a break. No, we can't. We have to find the others make it to Konoha. Kakashi stumbled and fell off the branch. Sakura jumped after him, barely breaking his fall. I'm good. We can keep going. No sensei, you won't make we need to find somewhere to rest. As much as Kakashi hated to admit it, she was right, he had only done quick first aid on his worst wounds, and the travel was already undoing that. The amount of chakra he had to use was also getting to him. Any other ninja in his circumstance would be okay to travel for a few more hours, but with his Sharingan, it was like running on a treadmill on the brink of exhaustion. Help me lean against this tree, said Kakashi as Sakura lowered him. Go underground and see if you can sense any underground structures or caves. Shouldn't we be looking for the others? Akin should at least bring Sasuke to us. Sakura nodded and put her trust in her teacher. Sakura performed the hiding like a mole technique and began to sense for any nearby natural structures. After about a minute, she came up and reported her findings. There's a cave a few miles from here, do you think you can make it? Kakashi put his hand on his knee and groaned as he got up. I have to, let's go. Once they reached the cave, Sakura laid Kakashi down against a wall and immediately tried to perform first aid. Sensei, you were so worried about us. I thought you were going to keep yourself safe, too, Sakura said, her voice layered with concern. Kakashi chucked. Don't worry, I'm like this after every big mission. I'm used to it by now. You shouldn't be. After several minutes, Sakura had done her best to treat Kakashi's wounds. It wasn't a professional job, but she did well enough to stop the bleeding. Kakashi maneuvered himself into a more comfortable position on the ground. I'm sorry, we shouldn't have taken you guys here. It's not your fault, Sensei, we all wanted to go. Sakura, keep an eye out for Sasuke. You two are going to need to look out for one another. I probably won't be able to move for at least a few days. Until then, you have to keep each other safe. If it comes to that, you may have to leave me. Stop, don't talk like that. We won't leave you, so don't even say it. Light tears began to form at the edge of Sakura's eyes. After a few moments, Sakura asked a question. Do you think Anko and Naruto are okay? Kakashi smiled under his mask. Those two together are unstoppable, they'll be fine. Kakashi, a few minutes later, fell asleep, leaving Sakura alone to protect them both. Sasuke sat in a tree, avoiding suppression. His chakra was already struggling with Jobo, but he had to retreat when the other one showed up. He barely managed to escape and was now hiding while the two of them searched the surrounding area. He felt a presence and went to strike, only to have the kunai knocked from his hands. He jumped to look at his assailant, which was, to his utter surprise, a small pug. Man, Kakashi hasn't taught you guys any manners, has he? Said the pug. Who are you? My name is Pakin. I'm one of Kakashi's dog summons, he ordered me to track your scent and bring you to him. His voice was laced with worry. Sasuke asked, are the others alright? Kakashi is with the pink-haired girl, but he mentioned he didn't know where the other two were. He asked me to take you to the two of them. What about the two patrolling the area? Pakin sniffed the air. They are far enough away now that we can make our way to them. With a resolute nod, Sasuke set off, following Pakin's lead, his heart set on reuniting with Sakura and Kakashi. Anko and Naruto, still soaked from the river, traveled slowly due to Anko's leg wound. They washed up far downriver and had been traveling for a few hours. Naruto had no experience in cases where the whole team was split apart and they had no solid idea where they were about Konoha. Are you okay, sis? Naruto asked, clearly worried. I'm okay, just as long as we can get somewhere to rest for a moment. Can't we rest now? No, they might be after us, we can't risk running into the bone guy again. Naruto nodded while he was still worried about her state. He trusted that she knew her own body. So what are we going to do? We have to meet back with the others, asked Naruto. Protocol in this situation is to find a town or village near a leaf outpost, they usually have ninjas stationed there. Naruto's face fell, and he asked. Do you think the others are okay? Of course they are, that bone guy seemed pissed when he fought us, the others must have given them the slip. We just have to find out where we are and make it to an outpost. What outpost are you talking about? Inquired Naruto. They are all around the Land of Fire, they hold supplies and shelter for ninjas on long-term missions. If we want to meet up with the others, that would be our best bet, since that would be the first place Kakashi and the others would go. As they approached the edge of the woods, they heard voices from the shoreline. Anko looked at Naruto and motioned to get down. Naruto crouched right beside her and began to listen to the conversation. In front of them was a fishing hut with a small dock. Beside the dock was a sizable fishing boat with multiple people on it. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. We can't hide our haul, it will only backfire. The last time someone tried, they had their boat taken away and he made an example of them. I'm not saying we hide everything, we just need to keep some for our families, at least. Please, my daughter is hungry and the little we get to keep would only feed us both for the next week. No, I'm sorry, Takeshi, but I have to worry about more than just you. We could lose what little food we already got, said a tall brown-haired man, presumably the leader of the group. As the two continued their argument, Anko turned to Naruto and said. We should get their help and ask for a ride back to their village. What? Why didn't you say we shouldn't trust anyone but ourselves when we are out on missions? Yeah, but this is different. I can barely move and we are too vulnerable by ourselves out in the open like this. And they probably live in a village, meaning we can find out where the hell we are and head out to the outpost when I get better. Naruto thought for a moment and then nodded. What Anko was saying made sense. Okay, let's go. Wait, they probably won't be eager to help random ninjas in the woods. So what do we do? Anko performed hand signs and transformed into a plain brown hair woman in civilian clothing. Okay, transform into a younger sibling of this hench. Naruto nodded and transformed. He had transformed into a brown hair kid with farmer's clothes. Okay, here is the plan. After a few minutes, Anko explained what Naruto had to do. Okay, so remember the cover story and play it cool. Don't try to overact or say too much. I got it, back in Konoha, they call me Naruto Uzumaki, the master of disguise and espionage. Anko rolled her eyes. Okay, come on, brat, let's start the show. Hello, can you help us, please? The fishers turned toward the woods to see a young boy and a young woman leaning against him, clearly favoring her right leg. What happened? The leader yelled. He began to walk forward, seeing that the two were clearly in some sort of distress. The other fishermen around the area began to look on, waiting to see if they could help. My sister is hurt and sick, we got attacked. By who? The fisherman asked as he cautiously looked around to see if the attackers were still in the area. Our parents had a small farm back west. We were attacked by bandits, and my sister and I ran. Naruto's eyes began tearing up and his voice became more tense. But my sister hurt her ankle and fell and hit her head. Since then, she has been sick and we have been searching the woods for help. I would go back, but mom said not to, and I have no idea. The man interrupted Naruto and placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. It's okay, kid, you did your best. The woman who had been silent outside of her ragged breathing spoke up in a hushed voice. Please help us, or at least my brother, please. She then put more weight on her ankle and winced. The captain looked over to the rest of his crew, looking for silent confirmation of what he was thinking. After a few nods from his crew, he turned back to the boy and said, "We can't help your sister here, but we can take you back to our town to get someone to look at her." The boy sniffled and began to rub tears out of his eyes. "Thank you so much." "Thank you. I don't know how we can repay you," said the woman. The man put his hand on the boy's head. "No worries, kid, what kind of man would I be if I left a woman and child to fend for themselves?" He then offered his shoulder for the woman to lead on, which she took early as he led her to the dock. "You caught us when we were about to head back anyway." Naruto followed and asked, "So, where do you live?" One of the other sailors responded, "We all come from different villages, but we all live in the land of waves." In her henge, Anko lay on a small cot, her eyes tracing the patterns on the ceiling. The cloudy sky peeked through the holes in the roof, and a breeze that slipped in carried the heavy humidity. Her gaze shifted to her wrapped wound, a stark reminder of her vulnerability. Anko's mind wandered back to her encounter with Cimro. Flashback. Days earlier, before Anko and Naruto jumped into the river. Anko fired off another flurry of senbon at Taiya. Since she arrived to help Naruto, they had kept her on the back foot, with Naruto using clones to stave off the doki. At the same time, he got in close in an attempt to apprehend her flute with Taiya. They had her on the ropes as she couldn't play her more complex melodies for her techniques, as she was constantly being barraged by Senbon and Naruto, making continued attempts at her flute. After several minutes of this, Naruto finally landed a Bill style palm strike on Taiya's hand, sending her flute flying. Damn it. Anko struck Senbon in points in her leg, hampering Taiya's mobility. She started to limp away toward her flute, but she was met by a small army of Narutos who began to hold her down. Get off, damn it. Anko landed next to the restrained Taiya. "I'm only going to tell you once, I'm going to get you to tell me everything you know about Orochimaru or else." "Or else what?" said Taiya. Anko deftly took a senbon, dabbed it in a vial she had in her coat, and pieced Taiya's hand. Her hand began to feel like it was on fire, and Taiya started to scream in agony. "What did you do to me?" "That is venom from a vicious breed of fire ants in the forest of death. It won't kill you, but it will hurt like hell, and I got a hell of a lot more of it if you don't tell me everything now." Naruto saw Taiya's eyes tear up as she continued to scream. "Sis, this is wrong. We can't do this, it's not right." Naruto's voice quivered with a mix of fear and concern. "Shut up, Naruto, you don't understand, this is my first chance to get him in years. I can't let it go." From above, Anko heard projectiles zipping through the air. 10-finger drilling bullets. Small bone fragments flew through the trees and went toward Anko and Naruto. They dismissed most of Naruto's clones, but Naruto's original body was far enough away that he could dodge the bullets. Anko wasn't so lucky as one of the bone bullets hit her leg. She managed to stumble next to Naruto and looked for their assailant. Cimro descended before them, his body transforming into a menacing array of bone spikes. Dance of the Camellia. Naruto reacted by summoning dozens of clones and had them charge at Cimro. Cimro began to spin and weave through the clones easily, dispatching them easily. Anko took out a syringe from her felt kit and injected it into her leg, slowing the blood flow in the area around her wound. She turned toward Naruto. "We have to move now," said Anko. "But we can fight him," said Naruto. "Just trust me, Naruto," said Anko. Anko and Naruto hoped to go to the branches above and begin to move away. After Cimro defeated the last clone, he turned to the still battered Taiya. "I expect you to follow me so you can help me clean up this mess." He then began to go after his prey at alarming speed. Anko winched and had to focus to keep her balance each time she jumped and landed. Naruto was still reserved about running away. "Why are we running?" Anko shook her head. "He has a very powerful Kekai Genkai where he can manipulate his skeleton for combat. It makes him a difficult opponent to face since regular attacks won't work on him." "But we can still take him if we work together," countered Naruto. "Maybe, but we can think about how to beat him while running." What Anko was saying was only half the reason she wanted to run. Another was that Cimro's arrival implied that he defeated Kakashi, something she desperately didn't want to think about right now. Naruto looked back to see Cimro gaining on them. "Naruto, on my signal, turn around and use great breakthrough on my technique," he nodded. "Okay, I got you," said Naruto. Anko turned herself around mid-air and went through hand signs. High release. Great fireball technique. She released a massive fireball. Cimro. Naruto followed her lead and performed. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Naruto put a massive amount of chakra into the technique, producing shearing winds and making the fireball triple in size and intensity. The sequence was fast and was done when Cimro was in the air, unable to dodge. As the massive flame went toward him, he held a blank expression as if dead on, creating an explosion of fire. "Yes, we did it," said Naruto in celebration. Anko hoped for Naruto's statement to be true as she watched the smoke to see if their combo attack had any effect. Her heart dropped when she saw Cimro jump through the smoke with a massive shield of bone coming from his arms. He melded back into his skin and he continued his pursuit unharmed. Naruto looked over to Anko, losing some confidence at how little their powerful attack just did. "So what are we going to do now?" Anko began to think that the only attack that could do any damage was her Flames Wisps technique. However, it required a lot of time to use and the target needed to stay in one area. As she looked back at Cimro steadily gaining on them, she lost confidence in that idea working. Anko was shaken out of her thoughts by a panicking Nerd. "Hey, sis, I think we're out of the forest." Anko looked up to see the edge of the forest and a massive ravine that went on for miles. "Let's change direction," Anko said. As Anko was about to, Cimro appeared only several feet from her and held the tips of his fingers toward her. 10-finger drilling bullets. Anko reacted quickly and tackled Naruto out of the trees and onto the ground below. They found themselves on the edge of a cliff, with Cimro approaching. Then flashback. Anko stopped her reminiscing as the door to the small shack opened and Naruto entered still in his henge with Asami following behind him. Asami was the leader of the group of fishermen they ran into. He had allowed them to stay in a shack near his home for the time being. He carried a bowl of soup and laid it down next to Anko. "Sorry, it's not much, not a lot of stuff to make food with nowadays," said Asami, his voice tinged with embarrassment. "Oh, no worries. You have already been more than kind by letting us stay here," said Anko sincerely. When they first arrived in the village, Anko had a chance to survey the area. It was clear that this was an impoverished region, making the small bowl of soup Asami offered them all the more significant. Anko thought herself well-read and prided herself on her knowledge of global affairs, but the poverty she witnessed in the Land of Waves differed from her expectations. She knew it was a small island nation east of the Land of Fire. They had no centralized government or ninja village and a low population. She figured that a nation with sea trade routes to 3 significant elemental nations would at least be financially stable, but it seems she was wrong. As she sipped her soup, Anko decided it was time to broach the subject of her and Naruto leaving. They could walk across the sea back to the Land of Fire, but she didn't want to draw too much attention if it wasn't necessary. "I thank you for your hospitality, but my brother and I must see if our parents made it out alright. Is there any way we can get a boat off the island?" asked Anko. Asami shook his head. "Not unless you have the ryo to spend. My crew and I are only allowed to set out once every 2 weeks. You might catch a ride on another one of the crews up the coast, but you're likely gonna have to get passage on one of the freighters and they'll take you leg before they allow you on for free." "How much do they charge?" asked Anko. "Last price I heard was 500,000 ryo." Anko cringed at the number. Who has that kind of money? "No one, but the price of everything around here is increasing," explained Asami. "Why is everything so expensive here?" asked Naruto. Asami sighed and sat down on a wooden seat in the corner. "It wasn't always like this. When I was a boy, we had plenty to go around. Everyone made a good living as fishers or working for one of the shipping companies. My old man owned one and raised me and my sister comfortably," Asami said, happiness in his tone as he remembered better times. "What happened?" questioned Naruto. Beidou, Asami's voice had enough venom to make Anko and Naruto flinch. He came through here a little over a decade back with his little group of thugs. They went around pressuring the people who owned shipping companies to sign over everything to him. Trade deals, ships, hell, even houses if they were close enough to the port. What did they offer you? Inquired Anko. Asami waved his hand dismissively. They would have done better taking a shit in our hands. We could have made what they were giving us in 2 months if we kept the company. My dad refused, and they kept pushing it. A busted window turned into a sabotage boat. They wouldn't stop. Did your dad sign the contract? Yeah, he did. They kidnapped my sister and threatened to sell her off. Since then, Gato has had control over everything. All the stuff in the country comes from the sea, so he can charge what he likes, and the only jobs available are working for Gato at his shipping company, and they pay you just enough to keep you alive for the next week. Said Asami, his restlessness at the current situation evident. Asami then sighed and stood up from the chair. Sorry about that. I can get awfully passionate, it's not your issue. I'll take you back when I head back out in a couple of weeks. You are welcome to stay here until then. Why don't you stop them? It's only one guy. You can't just let him push him around like that, said Naruto, wondering how people could allow themselves to get bullied around so easily. Asami looked at Naruto with pity in his eyes. A lot more people around here used to think the same. They even had a leader whose name was Kaiza. He rallied the people and tried to stand up to Gato. Tried? What happened to him? Asami's features darkened, and he dismissed Naruto's question. Is not your problem. Seriously, you folks don't need to be messed up in all this. He then made his way toward the door and turned around. And if you need anything, just come over and knock on my door. Asami then exited the small, dilapidated shack. Anko glanced at Naruto, noticing his intense gaze fixed on her. She immediately got what he was getting at and began to protest. No, we can't. We have to find the rest of the team. But these people need help, they helped us. We can't just abandon him, said Naruto. Look, how about we leave tonight? We can walk back to the land of fire, and when we get back to the village, we can tell the Hokage about all this, Anko bargained. There's no way I can do that. Naruto pointed outside. These people are struggling badly, and it's all because of one rich asshole. We can do something about it, why don't we? Naruto, we can't, okay? This situation is probably a lot more complex than we can solve in a few days, and who knows what could happen with the others if we wait that long. Anko's voice was filled with concern. You told us to believe in each other, and I'm doing that. I would want them to do the same thing if they were here. If you're not going to help me, I will find this Gato guy and kick his ass myself. Anko sighed. This kid was way too persuasive. Fine, we'll see what we can do, but we can only stay a few days. After that, we leave. Naruto smiled. Awesome, let's go find that guy and show him what's for. Hold up, it's not that simple. Gato is not just your run-of-the-mill gang lead, he's one of the wealthiest men in the world and one of the biggest shipping companies in the world, explained Anko. How do you know that? Asked Naruto. I read Naruto, and it can be pretty useful if you do it more than one time a week. Naruto bristled at the call-out. It means that we have to find a way to displace his company from Wave, or someone is just going to come back to take it over. How are we going to do that? A knock came from the door. Asami's son yelled, Dad, someone's at the door. He got up and went to answer the door to see Anko and Naruto still in their hinges. Oh, you two, do you need anything? Anko and Naruto dropped their hinges, revealing their identities as ninjas. Asami stood in the doorway, mouth open in shock. Anko spoke. My name is Anko Mitarashi, and this is Naruto. We're both ninjas from Konoha and would like to help. Sakura finished changing Kakashi's bandages and ensuring none of his wounds were infected. It had been nearly a full day since they arrived at the cave. Sasuke found them a few hours later, and since then, they had taken the chance to rest up with them alternating watches between the night. She smiled at Pakin, snuggling into Kakashi's chest. Pakin had told them he had 2 more days before he was unsummoned. It wasn't enough time to return to the village, but he agreed to stay and help them protect Kakashi as long as possible. Sakura looked over to Sasuke, who was near the entrance, using the light to sharpen his weapons. They had only said a few words to one another since meeting back up, and it made her feel self-conscious about how little their relationship had progressed over the months. Naruto always started conversations between the three of them, so it masked the fact that she and Sasuke rarely spoke to each other directly. Sakura shook away her anxieties about Sasuke and focused on more important matters. Kakashi said he would be out for a few days, and they needed to make a plan. She walked up to Sasuke. He turned around, hearing her footsteps echo in the cave. We need a plan. Kakashi-sensei is in a rough condition. I doubt that even when he regains consciousness, he'll be able to move right away, explained Sakura. Meaning we have to make plans for those 5 to track us down again, said Sasuke. Sakura nodded. Yeah, we should start with what we know about them. Sakura and Sasuke began discussing their fights with Jobo, Saen, and his brother. So it seems like whatever this curse mark is, increasing all their physical and chakra abilities. It also gives them a second wind. I had the big guy almost defeated, but once he activated his second form, it was like I was fighting a completely different guy. So do you think all of them will come after us? Asked Sakura. You said Kakashi disabled the leader, so they may hesitate to come after us. If they know how hurt he is, they will try to take advantage of his weakened state, considering who he is. Sakura remembered what the leader had said to Sasuke when they first encountered Sound 5. I get why they want Kakashi, but why would they want to go after you? The Sharingan, that's the only thing I can think of, it's the most powerful Dojutsu in the world, and as far as I know, only 3 people have it. Me, Kakashi, and the man who killed my clan. Yeah, but you don't have your Sharingan, do you? Sakura covered her mouth and scolded herself for saying something stupid. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. No, it's okay, it's just. Sasuke paused. A lot of our clan's knowledge about the Sharingan was given orally through stories. My dad was going to show me how to unlock mine, and sometimes I wonder if I'll ever get my Sharingan or am I destined not to carry on the will of my clan. Sasuke's vulnerability took aback Sakura, but quickly reassured him. Don't say that you work harder than anyone I know, I'm absolutely sure you'll get you, Sharingan, so please don't lose hope. Sasuke closed his eyes, and a smile came across his lips. Thank you. I usually never doubt myself, but sometimes, it just comes out. Sakura blushed lightly. No problem. Sasuke then swiftly redirected the conversation to the plan. Do you think you can hide the entrance to the cave with your earth jutsu? Sakura shook her head. The entrance is too big to close up with my earth jutsu. And if I raise the ground, it will probably give away our position due to the distinct changes in the terrain it causes, explained Sakura. Sasuke nodded. Yeah, the guy I fought also used earth jutsu, meaning if he can use a technique similar to yours, we'll likely find out eventually, Sasuke admitted, his tone tinged with concern. We can't make a plan until we figure out how many of them are after us, if any at all, said Sakura. They heard a yawn as Pakin stretched and walked over to them. If you need to know how many of them are after you, I am your dog. Cimro looked at his team. They had recovered Kidaru's body and sealed it into a summon scroll. After he had called a meeting to discuss their next move. Each of us failed miserably in our task, and we should each expect punishment from our master once we return, but there is still an opportunity to make some things right. Jobo and Saen, I need you two to track down Haddock and the Uchiha. Me and Taiya must check on preparations for our other task. I expect both of you to meet us at Lord Orochimaru's hideout with Haddock dead and the Uchiha captured, Cimro declared, his voice filled with determination. Saen spoke up. Wouldn't Taiya be a better option here? Her ninjutsu would be valuable in detaining the Uchiha. Taiya looked eager to accept the role change, not wanting to be alone with Cimro. I agree that she would be useful, but her part in the master's plan will be essential if things change, Kidaru explained. Do you think we will go with plan B? Asked Saen. Despite them not learning Kabuto's identity, the Leaf now knows a spy is in the village. It may not change our circumstances, but I'm unwilling to take a chance. Cimro turned on his heel and began to walk away without uttering another word, his silence heavy with unspoken command. Taiya turned towards Saen and Jobo. Bye Emo, bye Fatso, hope you idiots don't get yourselves killed. Mocked Taiya. Jobo's voice was tinged with disappointment as he spoke, considering that you were the only one here who was defeated, I would have assumed you would have gained some humility, it appears I was wrong. Whatever, they caught me off guard. How was I supposed to know that brat? Taiya, Cimro said, giving Taiya a look with cold rage. Taiya immediately piped down and started to follow Cimro. Come on, let's finish this trash off, said Saen. Do not underestimate our opponents. The Uchiha was formidable and cunning, and I assume the girl you fought was also a challenge, not many could survive long against you and your brother's technique. She got lucky. Next time, it'll be over in an instant. Jobo shook his head, annoyed by the overconfidence of his companions. I wish Kidaru were here, with his summons, we could have found them within the day, now we have to scour the forest looking for them. All the more reason we should hurry, said Jobo as he and Saen went off to pick up the trail of their targets. Anko and Naruto traveled north as Asami had directed them. He told them of a man resisting Gato's control and building a bridge to stop Gato's stranglehold on the island. It was a man named Tazuna, who was Kaisa's father-in-law. Asami had told them the whole story of what happened to Kaisa and how it has demoralized the citizens to this day. Tazuna had been going around wave asking for donations to hire a team of ninjas to protect himself and the bridge. Though from what Anko gathered the donations wouldn't have paid for any mission above a C rank. After about an hour of travel, they made it to Tazuna's house. They walked up to the door and knocked. "One moment, please," a feminine voice said from behind the door. The door opened and a woman with long dark blue hair came out. She wore a short-sleeved pink shirt with the end of the sleeves and a red collar, as well as a long blue skirt. "Hello, does Tazuna live here?" asked Anko. "Yes, he does." "Who is asking?" Tsunami paused as she saw the forehead protectors. "Are you here to help?" Tsunami asked in a meek voice, weary of a trap. "You bet we are," Naruto said as he put a thumb on his chest. Dad, come quick, ninja are here," yelled Tsunami. "What, but I haven't even gone to hire some yet," Tazuna yelled as he came in view of the door and spotted Anko and Naruto, his mouth went slack-jawed. "Come inside. We can talk about this over tea," suggested Tsunami. Anko and Naruto came inside and began to tell Tazuna and Tsunami about their circumstances for being there. "Well, it looks like my luck just keeps getting better. I can't believe an actual ninja. By the way, are you sure this pipsqueak is up to help guard me and my bridge? It's not an easy job. You know," boasted Tazuna. "Hey, who are you calling a pipsqueak? I have you know you're talking to the future Hokage here," responded Naruto. Tazuna looked closer at Naruto. "I don't see it." "Hold up, Gramps. We never said anything about guarding you," interrupted Anko. "What do you mean? My bridge is the only hope for this country," retorted Tazuna. "You're either too naive or too full of yourself if you really believe that," said Anko. "No, listen here, Missy, I don't know who you think you are if you think you as an outsider, can you tell me what's best for my own damnation?" "Well, this outsider happens to be one of the best infiltration sabotage specialists where I come from, and I'm saying that this whole bridge situation doesn't make any sense. Gato could have had you and your family killed or detained as soon as you started on the bridge." Tsunami gasped. "Don't say such things." Anko shrugged. "It's true. Have you ever considered that Gato is letting you build this bridge? How long have you been at it?" "About 5 months." Tazuna, growing annoyed at Anko. "And he has known about it for that long and hasn't lifted a finger. I don't buy it. Something fishy is happening here, and even if he just let the bridge be built, it wouldn't solve the issues with your country," said Anko. "It doesn't matter why he hasn't made a move, this bridge is still the only shot we got to save this country," said Tazuna. "Okay, tell me, once you connect the bridge to the land of fire, what's the next step?" asked Anko. "We will go out and buy cheaper goods and get traders to come here," explained Tazuna. "Land traders who you have no previous relationship with will come to the edge of the land of fire to do business with a poor market, and from my memory, the closest settlement from here that you could trade with is several days easy on foot, and it's not like they would have a surplus of supplies," Anko criticized. "Sis, stop being mean. I thought we were helping them," said Naruto, unhappy with how she was talking. "Well, what the hell do you want me to do? I'm just one man, it's all I can think of," said Tazuna. Anko's eyes and tone softened as she looked at Tazuna. "Look, Gramps, I'm not trying to shit on your ambition, in fact, you're probably one of the gustiest people I have ever met, all I'm trying to say is that expecting to build a bridge and all of the issues will be solved is not realistic." Tazuna slumped forward, sloshing around his bottle of sake in his hand. "It's all I'm good at, I'm just a washed up old drunk outside building bridges. I can't fight, so this is my way of helping my people, I have to honor him." Anko smiled. "Well, don't worry. You have the 2 best ninjas available to pull something like this off. We need more information to determine Gato's weaknesses and any vulnerabilities in his operation and to understand why he hasn't stopped your bridge project yet." Anko turned toward Naruto. "What I need you to do is to create shadow clones and hinge them into different things, from people to animals, and eavesdrop and prod for information on Gato. This would usually take several days, but with how many you can make, it can be done in a few hours," said Anko. "How do I get information? I've never done something like this before," questioned Naruto. Anko shrugged. "You'll be fine, you are so naturally charismatic, people will be telling you their life stories after you talk to them for a bit." "What are you going to do?" asked Naruto. "Asami told me that Gato's biggest port is on the west side of the island. The dockmaster there must know something, so I will go there and politely ask a few questions," said Anko. Naruto got flashbacks to Anko asking questions to the girl they captured. "Sis, you aren't going to hurt them, are you?" asked Naruto. "No, civilians are super susceptible to genjutsu, it's really easy to get info out of them," explained Anko. "What can we do?" "I don't want to make you do all the work," asked Tazuna. "Keep working on the bridge, we don't want to draw suspicion about our presence, and we would appreciate any useful information you may have," Anko informed. As they discussed further details, none of them noticed a small boy peeking through a crack in his door, scowling. Akin returned to the cave from his scouting expedition. Sasuke asked, "Are they still after us?" Akin nodded. "I caught 2 scents still in the area, they appear to be the opponents you 2 fought before." You didn't smell the other three, but can they still be in the area? Akin shook his head. Unlikely, my sense of smell is very strong. Unless they have a high-level concealment technique, they will leave a trace. They likely sent these two after us, and the other three went after the rest of your team. Are they close by? Asked Sakura. They're far enough away where they likely won't find you now, but if the two of them continue at the pace they're at, they'll be on our doorstep in a matter of days, explained Pakin, his voice tinged with concern. Do you think we can move Kakashi? Questioned Sasuke, trying to go through their options. Sakura shook her head. Not at a speed that would be viable, plus if we are caught with him out in the open, he'll be a sitting duck. Sasuke nodded. They could carry Kakashi and escape without trouble, but if they did encounter those two, Kakashi would be a sitting duck. Then we have to stand our ground then, said Sasuke. That might not be too bad. Well, we know most of their abilities, and we know they are after us, meaning we can dictate where we fight them. So you're suggesting we trap the area? No, not just that, we should create a battlefield next to the cave where we can take advantage of them coming after us. Sasuke began to expand on Sakura's statement. It would be far enough away from Kakashi where he won't get caught up in the fighting, and it gives us the best chance to win. Okay, let's go over our supplies. They went through there and Kakashi's ninja pouches and pulled out all of the supplies they had. 100 meters of ninja wire, 30 shuriken, 10 kunai, 5 explosive tags, 2 windmill shuriken, and 4 smoke bombs. Sasuke nodded. We can do a lot with this. Sakura was silent, her mind racing with all the possibilities if she used her genjutsu. Sasuke looked concerned as he watched Sakura stare intensely at the equipment before her. After several minutes, she turned towards Sasuke with a grin. They won't know what hit them. Anko was crouched on top of a warehouse as she surveyed the port. Several laborers were through to the shipyard, with warehouses littered through the port. There was also a 2-story building, which Anko assumed was the offices. A loud bell rang through the yard. There were a multitude of groans as the workers stopped what they were doing and began to make their way to the center. Anko overheard some conversations as they passed by her. Another announcement. What do you think it is this time? He probably wants to show off his new watch or something. At this point, I think he just likes the sound of his voice. When the workers gathered, a gaudily dressed man came out and stood looking over them. Hello, everyone, I'll make this quick since we are all busy. Gato has informed me that the production from this port has dropped significantly, so I regretfully have to tell you that your pay will be docked until we get back up to our usual standards. The group of workers went into an immediate uproar and began protesting. What do you mean production has dropped? We have been working our asses off. You can't keep doing this. We have families to feed. Anko seized the opportunity presented by the bustling crowd to slip toward the office building. Anko went snuck through the port until she arrived at the building. Anko meticulously surveyed the exterior of the building. She spotted a window on the back wall and stealthily approached it. Upon closer inspection, she noted that the lock was a basic latch. With a senbon in hand, she deftly pierced through the wood and lifted the latch, allowing herself entry. Once inside, she carefully closed the window behind her and silently scoped out the room. Making her way to the corner behind the desk, she went through hand signs and performed the transparent escape technique. Anko became invisible. The technique required a lot of chakra to use and maintain, so it wasn't helpful against ninjas, but it was perfect for people who couldn't sense it. After waiting several minutes, the dockmaster entered his office with the foreman behind him. You can't do this, we already had a pay cut last month, said the foreman asserted. I keep telling you it's not up to me. You are going to take it up with Gato, said the dockmaster, dismissing his concerns. You know I damn well I can't do that. The foreman then looked around at the dockmaster's lavish office. I see you aren't suffering any repercussions from these pay cuts. What are you implying? Just that you are a greedy bastard that is fattening his wallet while our families starve. Be careful, boyo. Do you even know who you're talking to? The dockmaster said, smugness oozing through his voice. The foreman tensed up, his face showing regret over his actions. Gato and I have known each other for years. You know well that Gato doesn't take kindly of people who disrespect him or his associates. The foreman was silent as he tightened both his fists at his sides. Any more complaints? No, good, now be a good little foreman and calm the rest of the workers down. If I have to keep listening to their complaining, I'm going to get a headache. The foreman left the office, and the dockmaster began to reach into his desk. Anko took action, dropped her jutsu, and grabbed him, one hand on the back of his neck and the other covering his mouth. She then turned him around to face her. Looking into his eyes, she began channeling chakra into him before using genjutsu to put him into a hypnotic state. Once it took effect, she let him go, and he plopped down right into his chair, eyes glazed over, staring forward. Testing to see if her technique worked, she asked a simple question. Who are you? The man responded in a monotone voice. My name is Akano Iwane, and I'm the dockmaster of this port. Anko, satisfied with the hypnosis, began her interrogation. Why hasn't Gato dealt with Tazuna? He wants to let him do most of the work on the bridge, he will kill him and take control of the bridge, we plan on tolling travel in and out of the island. How many thugs does Gato employ? It goes anywhere from 200 to 300 at any given time. Why such a wide fluctuation? Gato is a miser. He's underpaid his mercenaries for years. When they ask for more money, he hires cheaper ones to drive the others out or kill them. What mercenary group does he hire from now, and how skilled are they? Bottom of the barrel, the major troops won't deal with him anymore, and he doesn't pay enough to get anyone of decent quality. The only ones he pays well are his bodyguards, Waraji and Zori. How does he plan to eliminate Tazuna? I don't know. We know that Tazuna will hire ninjas soon. Gato said he had it solved, but he didn't tell me more than that. Does Gato have adversaries that can threaten his position in the wave? Not here. Gato's central hub used to be in Ten's Akugai, but he ended up pissing off the wrong people and even had the daimyo breathing down his neck. That's why he moved Gato company here, no authority to push him out. Anko thought about more questions she could ask. She only had a little more time. This was a big port and eventually, someone would wander into this office. She cancelled the genjutsu and cast another to put him to sleep. With a sense of satisfaction, Anko exited through the window and made her way back to Tazuna's, her mind buzzing with the valuable information she had just acquired. Naruto, feeling utterly drained, had spent the entire day with his clones, tirelessly gathering information on the island. Now, he was making his way to a spot one of his clones had found. He stumbled upon a secluded part of the forest, its air filled with the sweet scent of flowers. As he rested, he couldn't help but be reminded of a flower patch back in Konoha, tucked away in the forest behind the Hokage monument. It was a place he often sought solace in during his childhood. Naruto perked up as he heard the sound of the crunching of leaves and footsteps approaching. He saw a feminine figure emerge from the woods. They had loose, long hair that cascaded down their back and were dressed in a pink, sleeveless, low-cut kimono with pale red edges, decorated with small plum-colored swirls that went to their ankles, a striking sight in the forest. Oh, hello, there. Am I intruding on anything? The stranger, a feminine figure, asked Naruto. Naruto shook his head, still lying on the ground. No, I was just resting here. It's been a long day for me. Yeah, I can understand that, it's been quite a stressful day for me as well. Are you from here? Asked Naruto. No, I'm new here. I like picking flowers to unwind, so I asked one of the locals for a good spot. Do you mind if I could find another spot? Go ahead, I don't own this place. As the stranger walked forward, they eyed Naruto's headband. Are you a ninja? Yep, I sure am, the one and only Naruto Uzumaki. Haku smiled at Naruto's enthusiasm. Well, my name is Haku, it's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto. Would you like to join me? I plan on making an arrangement and I would like help picking out the right colors, Haku asked as they gestured to the flowers. Sure, but I've never picked flowers before. Trust me, it's not difficult, you'll get the hang of it quickly. The two picked flowers in the field, with Haku directing Naruto to which ones they needed. Haku had to tell Naruto multiple times that he was picking weed, much to their amusement. After about an hour, they rested and sat in the flower patch. Naruto, did you become a ninja? Asked Haku. They get strong and become Hokage, they are the strongest ninjas in their villages, and if I can get that strong, then I can protect my village and everyone I care about. Do you have a lot of people you care about? Yeah, Kakashi-sensei, Anko-sensei, Old Man Hokage, Iruka-sensei, Sakura, and I guess even Sasuke. He can be a jerk sometimes, but he's alright. Wow, that's a lot of people, Haku said, genuinely impressed. Yeah, I know, before, I didn't have a lot of people to care about, so I want to keep them safe by getting strong, said Naruto. Do you know who you look up to among them, like a person who you would do anything for, asked Haku. Naruto thought for a moment. I would have said Gramps before, but now I would probably go with Sis. Oh, you didn't mention you have a sister. Oh, she's not my sister. I just call her that. You must care about her a lot for you to consider her family, stated Haku. Yeah, she is super awesome, she helps me understand stuff when I don't get it. She's really smart and a badass ninja on top of all that. She sounds wonderful, Haku said, enjoying the warmth of Naruto's tone as he talked about his sister. Yeah, she's also an orphan, just like me. I'm lucky I didn't think after the academy that I wouldn't have someone like Iruka-sensei, but Anko is like him but cooler. In Konoha at the academy, Iruka sneezed and began to feel aggrieved. Do you have someone you look up to? Asked Naruto. The solemn expression came over their faces as they thought about recent events. Is there something wrong, Haku? Has your sister done anything you thought wasn't a good idea? Naruto immediately thought of Anko in the forest a few days earlier and her anger toward the girl they captured, a complete opposite of the usually calm and collected person he had come to know. He hadn't talked about it with her, but it disturbed him. Yeah, kinda recently, too. I know she probably has her reasons, but I didn't like it. It felt like she was betraying who she was. Haku nodded. The person I'm closest to did something I didn't agree with recently, too. What did he do? Naruto asked. Haku chose their word carefully, not wanting to reveal their identity. Well, he is about to go into business with someone I don't trust. We need money, but I know bad things will happen if we work with them. Did you tell him that? Haku shook their head. No, it isn't my place. If he feels it's the right decision, I will follow it. Naruto sat up. Well, why do you have to let him? You should tell him how you feel. But what if he doesn't listen? My Gramp said once that people who care about you will take you seriously. Haku looked down and whispered, what if you are a tool? What did you say? Asked Naruto. Oh, nothing. Naruto stood up and stretched. Thanks Haku. This talk made me want to talk to Anko. Naruto reached down to help Haku up. When he pulled Haku up, they were face to face, and Naruto, for the first time, noticed how pretty Haku was and began blushing. Haku became amused at this and said, Naruto, can I tell you a secret? Yeah, sure. Haku leaned over and whispered in his ear, I'm a boy. A shocked look came over Naruto's face, and Haku giggled at his reaction and began to walk away. As he began to exit the clearing, Haku turned around and looked at a still stunned Naruto. It was a pleasure meeting you, Naruto. I hope we meet again someday, Haku said as he left. Naruto stood there for several moments, still shell-shocked and slightly confused. He shook it off, taking it away to think about another day. Remembering his declaration, he went to find Anko. Naruto was waiting for Anko, a little distance from Tazuna's house. He spotted her coming up the trail, and he ran to her. Sis, we need to talk, Naruto said. Yeah, we have to overview what we both discovered in recon. No, not about that, I want to talk about what happened in the forest. What about it, asked Anko? About what you did to that girl. I understand she tried to kill us, but she was pinned down and defenseless, and you hurt her, and you said you would do it more. Naruto, it's complicated. Said Anko. No, it's not, that wasn't you, sis, you were like a different person. Anko looked inward at her actions. She felt guilty about yelling at Naruto at that moment, but she couldn't bring herself to feel bad about her threatening to torture the girl. Look Naru. Suddenly, Anko felt a pain in the side of her neck as the familiar pain of her curse mark called out to her. She knelt and held her neck. Her mind raced through images of her lost memories. The visions were intelligible, and each one lasted no more than a second, but one thing was clear. The voice of her former master. It was dark, but she knew she was inside, and all around her were pained groans and screams of people. The voice of her sensei broke through the noise. My dear Anko, I hope if there is one thing that you take away from this is that in the pursuit of knowledge, there are no limits or boundaries you can cross when you work toward your goal. Anko heard Orochimaru move away and shuffle around metal objects in what sounded like a pan. Do you know how many suffered when chakra healing techniques were first created? It's not well documented, but early practicers would often experiment on perfectly healthy people and break their bodies apart layer by layer, piece by piece, but no one ever talks about how evil medical ninjutsu is or its origins. Anko heard Orochimaru walk toward one of the groaning voices. After a few moments, the groans became screams of agony. Anko desperately tried to cover her ears, but the sound of the memory echoed through her mind. When we accomplish our goal, no one will remember the sacrifices we made or the methods we used, all that will matter is results. The sound of the memory stopped, and Anko's eyes shot open. She found herself curled up in a ball on the ground, Naruto hovering over her, panicking. When he saw that Anko had stopped writhing, he wrapped both his arms around her. Anko returned the hug and took the chance to touch her curse mark. The pain was still there, but it was subsiding. Naruto let go of the hug, and he had slight tears in his eyes. He began. Sorry, I didn't know what to do. I thought something bad had happened, Anko put a hand on top of Naruto's head. Look, kid, it's alright. See, I'm okay, I just had a flare-up. I hadn't had one that bad in years. Said Anko. What happened? Asked Naruto. Anko sighed. She pulled down the collar of her trench coat and revealed her curse mark. What's that? The man who the spy and those ninjas worked for is named Orochimaru. He was the Hokage's student and was my sensei. Then why did they attack us if they are working for your teacher? Asked Naruto. Anko put her hand up. I'll tell you everything later, I promise, it's just right now. Anko rubbed her curse mark. Naruto put his hand on Anko's shoulder. I understand you don't have to tell me now, I get how hard it is to tell people things sometimes. Anko smiled. Man, kid, you may not be the brightest, but in terms of emotional intelligence, you got the most ninja beat. Is that an insult or a compliment? Asked Naruto. A little of both, but seriously, thank you for calling me out. No, what I did in the forest wasn't me. I was angry and bitter. Well, we needed the information. The best thing we could have done was secure her and take her back to the village. If I had done that instead, we may not have ended up in this mess. Well, look on the bright side, if we didn't fall into the river, we wouldn't be able to help these people. I guess you're right. Come on, let's go on and head inside, said Anko. They then went inside to go over what info they had collected. So from what we gathered, Gedo set up base here to avoid authorities and continue his illegal trade. Without a centralized government, army, or any nearby ninja villages, the people of Wave couldn't defend themselves from the thugs Gedo hired to keep control of the population. Anko explained. He touches every commodity, from food to clothing, and charges extravagant prices to drain the population of what little wealth remains. He is extremely cheap and constantly replaced who was guarding him, to the point where he has low-quality thugs working for him. Tazuna nodded, going over the information. And we just beat up all of his guards. Then he won't be able to mess with the people, asked Naruto. That is possible, but that's still hundreds of people across the island. We would likely be found out before we manage to dispatch them all, and civilians would likely be caught in the crossfire. Clarified Anko. You said he doesn't pay them a lot. Can't we get them to turn on him? Asked Tazuna. Anko shook her head. He gives them food, shelter, spending money, and most importantly, power. They have free reign over the population. The only way we could entice enough of them to turn off Gedo was if we offered to pay them a large sum of money, something we don't have. No, we need to find a way to make Gedo leave willingly. The light bulb came on in Naruto's head and… Wait, sis, I have a perfect plan. After Naruto's explanation, Anko, Tsunami and Tazuna had impressed looks on their faces. You know what, kid, that might work if you can pull it off with your ninja magic, Tazuna said. Anko gave Naruto a proud look. Look at you, all that reading has finally made you smart. But seriously, this puts a lot of the onus on you. Are you sure you can handle it? Tsunami asked. Naruto put a thumb into his chest. Don't worry, I got this. Whatever it is you're doing, it's not going to work. Inari, stop being so negative, this plan is actually solid, said Tazuna. No, I can't listen to this anymore. These people think they can come in and just solve all our problems in a few days. It's stupid, they're just going to end up dead, yelled Inari. Inari, apologize this instant. Ordered Tsunami. No, I can't stand it, these ninja from their big all fancy villages never had to suffer like us, they don't understand what pain feels like. Naruto almost started to yell in protest, but Anko put a firm hand on his shoulder and gave him a look that said, I'll handle it. Inari. Tsunami began to yell at her son before Anko interrupted. No, it's okay, the kid's been through a lot. Anko's gaze turned directly to Inari. Listen, kid, I know you're in a lot of pain right now, and it may not be my place, but I promise you that by tomorrow, your dad's dream of your country being free will be accomplished. Tears began to roll down Inari's eyes, and he ran off, yelling. Shut up. You don't know anything. Sorry about him, apologized Tsunami. Don't worry about it, said Anko. Thanks, sis, you caught me before I said something stupid. What you were going to say wasn't going to be stupid, it was probably right, but sometimes you don't need to tell people what's right, you need to tell them what they need to hear. That's quite a wise young lady, commented Tazuna. Well, they do call me the young but wise Anko Matarshi. Saen and Jobo continued to look for their escaped quarry. We've been out here for days, how can we be sure they are still here? They could be long gone by now, complained Saen. If you want to return empty-handed, be my guest, but I'm not leaving until I find something to report back on, said Jobo. Whatever, I am not staying here for another. Wait, Jobo stopped and crouched down. What is it? Jobo put his hand on the ground and focused. There is a lot of movement in that direction, we should go check it out. Saxon rolled his eyes. Oh, joy, I can't wait to see another herd of deer, isn't that right, Yukin? Yukin didn't answer. Saken shook his head, he must still be asleep. Sometimes, I wish he would take over every once in a while, I could take a nap. If you're done with the theatrics, let's get moving. Saken followed Jobo for a few minutes before they arrived at the disturbance. They spotted Sakura and Sasuke standing near a river, collecting water in a bucket. Jobo waited on a nearby branch, but growing impatient, Saken immediately launched a surprise attack on the unaware duo. He grabbed a kunai and slammed it into Sakura, only for it to go straight through. Saken snorted. Really a regular clone, then swiped at illusionary Sasuke. They are not here, they probably just made a noise to throw us off. Jobo's eyes widened and he yelled, Jinjutsu, you idiot. Saen flared his chakra, and the clones disappeared. Saen looked down where the bucket was, only to see an active explosive tag. Anko and Naruto were going to Gato's mansion to enact the plan. They had advised Tazuna and Tsunami to stay at home. Naruto was excited and practically bouncing up and down. This Gato guy won't know what hit him. Calm down, if everything goes well, we won't even have to fight. Anko then felt a chill run up the back of her neck. She immediately began to examine the surrounding area. They were on the coastline not far from Tazuna's house, and suddenly, a thick mist began to develop the area. Stay vigilant, Naruto. Naruto nodded and got into a combat stance. Anko recognized the jutsu as the hiding in mist technique, a common tactic used by mist ninjas to obscure their movements and launch surprise attacks. She extended her senses, and she heard something coming toward them. Get down. Anko dropped down, and Naruto followed suit. A massive sword went overhead and sunk itself into a nearby tree. As they looked over, a man appeared on top of the sword. He was tall and muscular, with light grayish skin, short, spiky black hair, dark brown eyes, and small eyebrows. He wore bandages like a mask over the bottom half of his face. Anko's mind raced, trying to find possibilities other than the reality in front of her. Of course, they would run into an A-rank missing nin, they were just that lucky. Anko could only say one thing. Zabuza Mamachi. Zabuza grinned from under his bandages. This part ends here. For the next part, subscribe to my channel. Now, you guys should watch this video. Just click on it. And I will see you all there.